Good afternoon, motherfuckers. It is Tuesday, September 1st, day 2 of our new daily schedule, noon to 3, Monday through Friday. We can't thank you enough for rocking with us, joining us, and yesterday laughing with us. We had some of our highest numbers we've ever had yesterday for concurrent viewers. We appreciate the hell out of you for joining us here. The new daily schedule, I want to let you know, has been fucking fantastic, okay? Got a chance to sleep in a little bit. I do a little workout in the morning. How's it going? Feed the animals. The only thing that's been interesting is it's a new traffic pattern.
Oh, yeah.
Better or worse?
Worse. This particular crowd that's driving when I drive down here, they're not the on the way to work, we need to get somewhere crowd. This is a crowd who probably works from their car, just kind of cruises around. There's a lot of carousing around Indianapolis at the time that I'm coming to work now. So it's been, I had to put my head on a swivel and kind of find out the pattern a little bit. That's been the only big difference. But we appreciate everybody rocking with us today. Tuesday, September 1st, we have a massive sidebar to kick some ass today. Now, there's been mixed reviews of this sidebar, and I would like to let you know that it helps me out a lot because when I'm staring at our screen and it has all these things on the side, I'm like, oh, that's the shit we haven't talked about yet. And bingo, here's the things we haven't talked about yet. So whenever our clips go out, whether it's on social media or on YouTube, people can see that we've talked about other shit as well, and we're a full show as opposed to just a little clip show. Yeah. I think it's potentially a good idea. I will get bored with it. I will get sick of it. I think anybody that knows the show knows that that does happen. I have an ADD brain. I will get sick of that at some point. But for the time being, I think this is making us better, and there's a lot of shit to talk about. This one right here, by the way, this book that just dropped today, The Dynasty by a guy named Jeff Benedict or something like that. Yep. Oh my God, we're going to break that down. There is some real shit popping off in that book. I don't know who he got quotes from. I don't know how he got the inside scoops that he has. He has quotes from Kraft, Giselle, Tom, Belichick, just basically depicting the entire dynasty. But all anybody's really been interested in is the breakup that allegedly started happening in 2017 and obviously escalated to this offseason. There's another quarterback that Belichick absolutely loves in Cam Newton. And then all this other shit. All the boys are here. At Nick Moraldo is here. At Tone Diggs is here. Ty Schmidt is here. Jason McAfee's here. The Don Viva Lazito is here. Evan Foxy's cutting cameras. Mr. Mansuri here. And obviously, the intern Mitt is back there working no phones because our phones left with our relationship with Westwood One. Mm-hmm. So Mitt is currently staring at a wall that has a phone on it, taking some notes. But we appreciate the mental reps he's currently getting when the phone does eventually come back, I think next week. Big announcement coming here in the next couple of days about SiriusXM and our relationship with them. I do believe I can confirm, because I was a part of it, we have officially agreed to terms with Sirius. Full go.
You serious?
Serious, dude.
Seriously?
Serious, dude.
Serious.
Yeah, serious.
Serious.
We will debut there next week, and I think in the next 24 hours, everything will kind of get announced. I assume some other motherfucker on the internet will break our news. It happens all the time. Yep. I get told I can't say a single thing, and then like 30 minutes later, somebody breaks the news. I'm like, oh, this is just like Schefter. There's people like that do that on the internet. So look for some massive news to break here in the next 24 hours, I do believe, maybe 48 hours. I'm not behind the scenes in those types of decisions being made, although I am the person doing it. Interesting. On the couch at Boston Connor, the Bruins, rest in peace to their season. They lost to the Tampa Bay Lightning last night. Double overtime goal. Your goalie looked like he was just kind of lost in the sauce there in that second overtime. A lot of the goals almost went in. Too bad your goalie just left in the middle of the fucking playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, no team faced more adversity than the Boston Bruins. I'm just astounded by how they handled it, and we'll be back next season. Don't you worry.
Okay, well, let's talk about Boston. This book, The Dynasty, written by Jeff Benedict. This is going to be awesome to kind of unravel. Now, obviously, we are a daily sports show. We are a daily sports entity. We are the only sports network that was not given a copy of this to read before it came out. So we are only taking quotes and listening to quotes from other people who got the preview of the book and what they've been putting out. Now, remember, I am a human who has never read a book in my life, ever. That is not just you get it.
Hoopla.
Satirical?
Hyperbole, exaggeration.
Hyperbolic.
Yeah, you get it. And by the way, if I had, probably know that word quicker. But I literally literally have never read a book, but this is one where I'm enjoying the quotes that are coming out of it. I might invest some time to kind of snoop around. I believe the book is about the dynasty, the greatest dynasty in the history of professional sports, which was the New England Patriots for the last 20 years. You're talking 6 championships, 9 Super Bowls in a league that parity is king. They completely flipped that on its head. And all the quotes that have been coming out have been about the end of the relationship. It all starts kind of unraveling on what we thought we knew about behind the scenes between Belichick and Brady, but was actually being said and released was, no, they're kumbaya, it's just time to start new stuff. We respect each other, we appreciate each other. Turns out that was not the case, as we all expected. And if the quotes coming out are 100% accurate, which we have no idea how they're getting them, Gisele Bündchen might sell the book here.
Probably.
Her quotes are selling the book.
Yeah.
Obviously, Tom Brady's wife, who Tom Brady talked about their relationship with Howard Stern on Sirius, about how they almost got divorced a couple years ago. Like, they are a team, those two. And we've heard the quotes publicly where Gisele said, well, he can't throw and catch the ball immediately after Super Bowl. That blew up because he felt like you're throwing Wes Welker, I think it was. Wes Welker under the bus or whatever. So Gisele, I feel like, is a savage, always has been a savage, and now we're getting more and more quotes. Allegedly, she told Robert Kraft that she pointed out that Belichick treated Brady, and this is the one, like fucking Johnny Foxborough. It was bad enough to never voice approval. It was bullshit to still be dressing down the most accomplished quarterback in league history during team meetings and treating his personal trainer and best friend like some kind of outcast. When the conversation shifted to the future, Brady and Bündchen indicated it was time for them to make some changes that were best interests for their family. Among other things, they were contemplating a change of scenery. Kraft wasn't surprised by their feelings towards Belichick. He hadn't, however, expected to hear that Brady and Bündchen wanted to leave New England. Woo! Great writing there by Jeff Benedict. Incredible quote by Gisele. I love that Gisele, it's alleged in this thing, the way the people who have read the book, we didn't get to do that. It came out today. Nobody got a preview. The way they're setting it up is that Kraft invited them over for a conversation. There's like 6 different conversations that Kraft set up between Belichick, himself, and Brady. One guy sat on a chair on this side. Tom Brady sat on a couch to his left. Kraft illustrated how much they both mean to him. Then they talked and said they respected each other, but it was obvious there was still distance. So then Kraft had to work a conversation with Tom Brady and Gisele, and then he was trying to work a conversation with Belichick, and then Belichick and Brady had a conversation, and they just realized it wasn't going to work. But I guess in the conversation with Kraft, Gisele, and Tom Brady, Gisele had those quotes, and I don't know who told this. Did Robert Kraft tell this author? He was like, I had a meeting with Tom and Gisele, and I think she said to me, like, Belichick treats him like fucking Johnny Foster. Like, imagine Kraft saying that to the author. Or did Gisele say that she said that? Or did Tom? Like, how are they getting these quotes? So you always have to be like, is this bullshit or not? But I like that Gisele was like, because everybody else is, that's the Patriot way. Everybody gets treated the same. Team meetings, Tom Brady will get yelled at, and that's like kind of been propped up for a long time. Mm-hmm. And Gisele and Tom at home are like, are we not about fucking done? Am I fucking Johnny Foxborough? What a great nickname. And now he's Tampa Bay, obviously. But Johnny Foxborough was fed up with the way he was being treated. It wasn't just him, it was his whole family. Allegedly, according to this book, if their sources are accurate. And who are their sources? They say Kraft.
Yeah, Kraft, team executives, wives, Willie McGinnis, Brewski, Belichick, I believe, is on the list. I think Brady's on the list.
Yeah, it's Robert Kraft, Jonathan Kraft, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, Drew Bledsoe, Paul Tagliabue, Randy Moss, Willie McGinnis, Roger Goodell, Teddy Bruschi, Rob Gronkowski, Vince Wilfork.
Drew Bledsoe. Hey, you remember when you got slaughtered and then this whole thing started?
Damn near died.
I mean, you made great wine and all that stuff, but I mean, that was really, worst moment of your life, almost died.
Yeah.
And then you almost had, it started this. Drew Bledsoe, I would like to know his thoughts on it. He seems like a super cool guy, super chill guy, but it does go back to the beginning. But the only quotes we're hearing right now is about the end because it's the most dramatic and controversial and all that. So everything we thought was happening behind closed doors at the Patriots turns out was happening behind closed doors.
Wild that Tom needed to be, he's such a diva, needed to be pampered so much that he thought he had to leave.
Yeah, well, you're a fucking idiot.
His wife is in his ear, snake in the grass. But how often is it that wives go and meet with owners and the quarterback? Like
Kraft called for it. I mean, Kraft called for the meeting. The quotes that I read, the Kraft called for the meeting with Tom, and I would assume they went to Tom's house potentially to do it. He was trying. You got to remember, at this point, Kraft is trying to recruit He's trying to like, how do we make you happy? He's like Dr. Phil. Like, how do we make you happy? How do we make you happy? I'll come to your house. I'll come to your house. We'll set up a meeting between you two. We'll meet all together. It sounds like all that was happening. So I would assume Giselle was a part of the business decisions in that household. I think that was something that Tom talked about in that Howard. So I don't know how normal.
Connor,
I have
she
no
can't
idea.
be part of the meeting in her own house. She has to stay in the kitchen.
What I'm saying, that is absolutely despicable. That's despicable that your mind even goes there to think of things like that,
Boston.
Nick. But no, not at all. But she's not on the team. Okay, she doesn't wear a New England uniform
She's
when we go out on
literally.
Sunday.
She is on TB12's team though.
Yeah, which is his own team,
high-ranking
clearly.
officer.
And Guerrero.
By the way,
also some issues.
who Kraft was talking? Hey, I need to have a meeting with TB12 here.
Yeah, the quarterback, not the husband. Okay, he doesn't want to have a meeting with
no,
Tom Brady,
you're-
the husband.
you're such an idiot.
No, he wants to have a meeting with Tom Brady, the quarterback.
Listen, I understand that no matter what side you're on here, there's going to be you're going to have to dig your feet in and all this.
I'm on the public side.
Whoa. The public of Boston or the public of everywhere?
The public of football. I mean, in what world does this happen where someone has someone in their ear?
Well, you know,
you deserve better treatment. And then they leave. I mean,
Well, that's every relationship.
that's what happens.
But that's like actually what marriage is, I think. That is
Fuck
potentially what marriage. Yeah. But I don't know. I think if you think that Tom Brady was the reason for all this, you're always going to think that. But whenever you say, in what world does this happen? This doesn't happen. Like the best dynasty in the history of professional sports, a guy who's the greatest quarterback of all time in everybody's eyes, basically, and he's getting treated like a rookie still. That doesn't happen. So like that is in what world that can go on both sides of the thing. Like it would be awesome to see Peyton Manning.
Yes.
Like get treated the way that Tom Brady did, and just see how it goes. Just see how it goes. I don't know how many quarterbacks who've been successful would have handled it for 20 years or whatever, but that's because he was pick 199 or whatever, right? Yep. So it kind of always had that chip on his shoulder. You could see how because him and Peyton's relationship grew. They said they went on like little getaways, just those two talking football. This has all been documented and on that NFL Top 100 show when Tom Brady. Now that we know what is all happening behind closed doors, and Tom was at the table, Belichick was at the table, Rich Eisen was at the table, and they were talking about football. Listening to that's hilarious to think about them just swallowing all their feelings towards each other and just like we got to do TV here. But he talked about how Peyton taught him a certain play that they actually used against the Colts like 50 times, and their relationship started to grow, I would assume, because everybody was kind of always pitting them against each other. They're golfing at Jim Nance's house. Yeah. They're doing all that. I would assume conversations led to like, Peyton, did this ever happen to you? And Peyton be like, maybe first year, second year, but after that, I don't need you doing what you're doing. I would just assume that happened. And then Tom Brady probably talked to other people. It's like, is this normal? And then Tom Brady, and they're like, no. And then Tom Brady's like, are we kidding me here? Like this, but there was a lot of success in it. So like, you can't really bash it, but you could see both sides in this whole thing. Why Tom and Giselle would be pissed, and also if you're a Patriots fan, it's like, oh yeah, you win though, and now you're bitching about it. It's like, well, I mean, I'm an adult and I'm 40 years old now at this point. You can talk to me as if I am a grown ass man if you would like to.
Yeah, Montana, I believe he also said something to Brady.
Oh yeah, Montana came out and just. I was talking to Tom in a private conversation that he would not want anybody here, but yeah, I assume the same type of stuff was happening in those combos.
I mean, for sure. But with Peyton Manning, too, and even Montana, like, did these guys have any coaches that were on the caliber of Belichick?
Bill Walsh.
That had a system that worked that well?
Bill Walsh.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
no.
Nobody's on the caliber of Bill Belichick in football. I mean, that's the same thing as Tom Brady, though. Like, nobody's been on the caliber of Tom. But now we will find out. Was it because of Tom or was it because of Bill? Because they've gone their separate ways. Tom's assembled his soldiers. Okay, here we go. I'm going down to BA, offense guru, quarterback whisperer. I'm bringing my guys Gronk in. We got weapons. And Bill Belichick's saying, oh, wait till you see what I do. I'm going to tape a Subway commercial. I cut the sleeves off a guy's suit and tell him not to eat the fried chicken. And then I'm going to pay $1 million for Cam Newton to come in after not unemployed for 86 nights. And it is sounding as if what Bill Belichick and Cam Newton are doing up in New England is working better than I would assume Bill Belichick and Cam Newton could have expected. And everybody assumes that this said quote that we're about to run here from Belichick, it's like a 2-minute long thing that was on the NFL's XM channel on Sirius. So they have this 2-minute clip where Bill Belichick just says nothing but positive things about Cam Newton, how everybody loves him, doesn't matter if it's small settings, big settings, and everybody thinks this is potentially him just sending shots down to Tampa at Tom Brady because he would never, ever talk about this like Tom. But all I'm thinking is if Cam Newton and Bill Belichick are working this good together, you got to we got to fucking worry about the Patriots again. And this is something that we never thought about. Here's what Bill Belichick had to say about Cam Newton. It was unbelievable. 2 minutes long. Buckle up. I'm probably going to go to the bathroom when this thing happens.
I can see why he had the kind of success that he had at Auburn and at Carolina, and talking to people from that were with him there, the things that they said about him at Auburn and at Carolina from a decade ago or 2-3 years ago or even last year, it's all the same. And it showed up here. He's an extremely hard worker. Nobody works harder than Cam does.
Jeez.
He's here early, he stays late, and he works very hard. Some players like to work on things that they're good at, like if you're strong on a bench press and you just keep throwing more weight on the bench.
Here's some shots.
But Cam's the type of player that, works on things that he's not as good at and really tries to improve on a daily basis.
Still going.
And that's something that I really respect about him. Like, that's not easy for players, really any of us to do, is look at something that we're not we don't feel like we're very good at, or it's not one of our strengths, and put extra time into it when, that's a natural tendency is to do things you're good at.
It's just easy.
So he's worked extremely hard in all those areas. He's got a great personality. He gets along with everybody.
Everybody loves him.
Very social and has a great, presence, whether it's in a small room of a couple people or
even
in a bigger group.
Everybody
and he's highly competitive.
Is this the guy that won him 6 Super Bowls?
Very, very competitive on the field. He always wants to, do his best and do better than the guys competing against. And you see that from everybody's competitive. But
Right, yeah.
I think there are different degrees of it. And, it looks like I would, based on what I've seen, I would put him in the, top echelon of that.
His entire
but his competition extends way beyond the field. It's, off the field and, in meetings and, training and so forth. It's important to him to be the first guy up the hill when we run sprints.
By the way, we run sprints still. Everybody else doesn't.
To be first in everything that he competes in, and you can see the effort. And
he wants to be the first in everything.
The amount of energy that he puts into that. So I'd say those are some of the things that jumped out, in the month or so that we've been here.
We've only been together just a month. Fucking outrageous. Awesome. Bill Belichick goes on a 2-minute, 24-second ramble about how awesome of a human Cam Newton is, how competitive he is, how perfect he fits into their system up there. First guy in, last guy out. Everybody loves him. His energy is contagious. Just for 1 month they've known each other. And you know who's watching that? Fucking Johnny Foxburg and Giselle are watching that entire thing. I think they're going to be a problem. They're going to be an absolute problem. Now, granted, the AFC has a new. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that whole thing is basically Bill. Bill doesn't have an IG, but if he did, that's basically Bill posting photos of his new girlfriend and with a huge caption about how great she is on his IG to show how well he's doing.
What life is like now. I never thought I could. That's basically how I
never thought I could be this happy.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It may be even a boosted post. I think he's putting money behind that so everybody can see.
So
it.
he definitely knew this book was coming out then, right?
Yeah.
He'd seen this clip before, so he's like, all right, fuck Brady, I'll just stick it up his ass. Also, Cam is, the best guy I've ever coached, so we might as well get that out there too.
Yeah, see, I didn't even think that this was a shot at Tom Brady until you all said, oh, this is a shot at Tom Brady. And then Stephen A. Smith was even like, is this a shot at... And I didn't even think like that, and I assume that's because I choose not to be as toxic as you guys choose to be on a regular basis.
Yeah, sure.
Especially you.
No,
it's not even...
especially
especially you. I mean, this room potentially has... 3 of the most toxic individuals I've ever met in my entire life.
Yeah, these guys are
quick.
You guys are disgusting.
These guys are something else.
Oh, yeah, Ty. Yeah, definitely not you. Diggs will pander to whoever he feels like that's a good time. But I didn't even think that it was a shot at Tom Brady. Like that entire quote, I was like, okay, he just wants everybody to know that he can adapt and coach Cam Newton. There's a lot of question marks on whether or not he's getting a chance to kind of showcase a different side of himself as well as the fun coach. Remember, people enjoy the hell out of him. He's getting a chance to be a whole new, because they might have got caught in a rut there for 20 years with Johnny Foxborough and the way they did things. And it was like miserable, got to be miserable, got to be miserable, got to be miserable. Tom Brady leaves, dynasty dynasty potentially ends. Okay, I can reimagine myself. I'm going to be this new coach that everybody loves. I got defensive players opting out of the season more than anybody else, but we are going to sign a quarterback. We're going to put a team together, and we're going to have fun doing this, okay? We're going to enjoy the process. And by the way, you guys thought I want to get along with Cam? Here's 2 minutes and 24 seconds about why I love Cam Newton. And I was like, that was my naive thought. I was like, oh, that's definitely what it is. And then I walk in and everybody's like, oh, did you hear him bury Tom Brady yesterday? I'm like, I don't even think he said Tom Brady's name once. They're like, oh, he did though. He did though. I didn't even think of it like that. I guess more people are. I just like the fact that they're getting along because I would like to see Cam Newton dominating football again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. But I think, just the timing of it was so perfect, because obviously something like this was going to make big-time news today when you get those, like, really salacious quotes. So if Belichick could get a little bit ahead of that and just kind of twist that knife a little bit more, why wouldn't he?
Johnny Foxborough, he and his wife have to hear what Bill's saying. Ain't that nice? Isn't that convenient? And now down in Tampa Bay, it looks like Tom's having time of his life down there.
Yeah.
It looks like Tom is having the time of his life.
Happy wife, happy life.
Oh,
Why do you?
That's real, yeah. That is very real, by the way. Also, no state taxes.
Yeah.
Down there.
Warm weather.
In Florida. Also, the ability to potentially have his opinion heard and maybe respected after being the greatest player of all time, which, you would think would be earned at that point.
Sure.
Not early. Not early,
but
you don't have to. Not early do you have to, think that your opinion matters. I think that's very self-aware to think like that. But maybe after like 15, 20 years, maybe a little something can kind of slip in.
Maybe
there.
even after like 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah, but they do win 6 without his opinion ever mattering. So it's kind of
and go to 9.
It's kind of
go to 9.
It's kind of it's such an interesting perspective. But it looks like Tom's having time of his life. He's out sprinting young guys because the new TB12. He's celebrating touchdowns. He's having a good time down there and slinging the rock all over the yard in wet ass heat. Tampa Bay, which is something that A.Q. Shipley did talk to me about. He's coming from Arizona, and every time we talked to him, it was 109 degrees out there. It's dry heat, guys. It's dry heat, he'd say. He'd say, by the way, no longer dry heat down there. I was like, a little thick. He said, a little bit thick down there. They seem to be having a great time down there, though.
You think Tom was sitting in meetings and Bill would give him the game plan and stuff like that, and he'd be like, does anyone have any suggestions or questions? And Tom's sitting there with his fucking hand up, and Bill's like, anyone have any questions? And Tom's like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Just tell me one time. Maybe we don't do that. Maybe we don't do what we did last week because we couldn't move the ball at all. Maybe we get a wide receiver that can get open, that's more explosive, that can catch the ball. Remember that sideline run he went on? He was so defeated in that moment. You never saw Tom Brady like that. You never ever saw Tom Brady like that. You knew that. 20 years together is something that should be celebrated, though. That is a long time.
Yeah. 2
very successful people, very competitive people, top echelon of that when it comes to competitive humans.
With Cam Newton.
For 20 years, well, I assume Tom's also in there. I would assume Tom's also in there, but in Bill Belichick's eyes. 2 very competitive humans who are very successful, very rich, and in the spotlight. It is not easy for those 2 humans to just get along. Like, the fact that they lasted 20 years, I think should be celebrated, but I don't think that the book is going to talk about that. I don't think it's going to be like how awesome the 20 years was. Now, granted, I would never read the book, and we did not, so I will not know. Somebody else will have to tell me, but that is something that's very impressive, I think.
Well, that's what I'd be interested to see, too, because he did interview a bunch of these players from, like the early 2010s or like much earlier. So I wonder if he finds the fracture point of it all, or if it's just at a certain point, all this stuff gets dumped on him towards the end.
Hey, you don't have to read books, see?
I guess.
It's called Dynasty. The Dynasty. Very simple cover.
Yeah.
Maybe, could have dressed that up a little bit more, I think. You know what I mean? Maybe.
Yeah, probably.
But why waste any more money? We're in the middle of quarantine.
Smart.
Jeff, do you think you just did Zoom calls with all these people? You're like, yeah, you're bored. I know you are. Come on in.
Must have. He had a bunch of recordings, too, apparently, that he was sifting through, thousands of hours.
I assume this took years to write.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They bought the publishing company got the rights in 2019 for it.
Years?
Yeah. Right?
I would assume so, yeah.
I'll say 3 months.
I would say quarantine, right? He didn't know how it was going to end, I guess. So can you write it without knowing the full story? I guess you have to.
They only got the rights last
ask
year,
George
so it was
online.
written within the last year.
So I don't know. Just in my eyes, that's something that those professional writer people, that's something they could probably pen out, I would assume, get it together. But getting all those quotes, you have to be collecting for a long, long fucking time to get those quotes.
Yeah, I would assume a couple of years.
Really? Mm-hmm. You remember, hey, professional ghostwriter or whatever the hell his name was sent me an email yesterday.
That's right.
I got 5 hours to tell him he can write my life story.
Did you reply back?
Everything must go in that guy, huh?
Did you reply back?
I did not. No, I let that one go ahead and get deleted. It's a real shame. Never going to get it again.
Hey, he's a ghost.
Can I get his email?
Yeah, absolutely. You need a book. Andy Reid gets a 6-year extension alongside Veach, the general manager. Big news in Kansas City. This team has somehow pulled off more Houdini moves with cap space and money and superstar stacking than any team in NFL history, I'll say it. The Rams gave it a go a few years ago. They tried their best. It is all gone. The Kansas City Chiefs had a stacked team, absolutely stacked team. Ran the table, somehow managed to pay somebody $500 million over the next 10 years and kept 18 of their 22 starters there for the extended time period. Now, Andy Reid, who is allegedly to be paid amongst the top NFL coaches, which if you do the math on that and what's public information, he'll be making like $10 million a year for the next 6 years. So Andy Reid just won his first Super Bowl. He has a team that's just loaded with a bunch of incredibly talented people, quarterback of the future in the NFL, potentially greatest quarterback of all time whenever he's all done. I mean, he's on his way. He's very young, but there's a chance. And he just got $60 million more. I am so happy for Kool-Aid Man Andy Reid. That man deserves this. That man is going to have a hell of a run. And I would assume the next 6 years with him is about to be the best 6 years we've seen out of Andy Reid, because that team's got Kelsey for at least the next 4 years. They got Tyreek Hill for the next 2 years, I believe, or 3 years. Patrick Mahomes for the next 11 years, whatever it is. They have Clyde Edwards-Helaire for the next 4 or 5 years, fifth-year option they'll be able to put on him. And they have Chris Jones on the defensive side. Tyrann Mathieu, they're going to have to pay him somehow. I don't know how that's going to work. But they have kept this team together somehow. Now they lose Dustin Colquitt, which is not get talked about enough. The guy's one of the best punters to ever play in the NFL. So field position is potentially going to be a problem. But with their offense, it doesn't matter. So I think Colquitt knew that. I'm happy he got a Super Bowl, and the Chiefs were like, hey, we can't pay a couple $1 million. We literally only punt when we choose to. You've seen us. We only punt when we choose to. So he's out. But other than that, they got their kicker back. They got offense back. They got defense back. I mean, they're poised to go on a run. And in an offseason that was a complete clusterfuck, it feels like that entire continuity situation is only good for them. What an amazing job over there in Kansas City. I'm pumped to see where they go. But Cam Newton and New England could be a problem. How about Ben Roethlisberger over there in Pittsburgh coming back? What about Phillip Rivers and Indianapolis Colts? Well, it feels like everybody's currently looking up the mountain at the Kansas City Chiefs, and somehow nothing has fallen off in their team. Everything is just staying put for at least another few years.
And the great part is everyone says Andy Reid is an incredible guy. And, like, for a long time, Andy Reid's everything everybody said about Andy Reid was clock mismanagement, 4 straight NFC championships, can't win the big one. And then he goes to KC, he wins the Super Bowl. And no one's going to remember that stuff before. Like, they're going to remember the end of his career, and it's going to be great for Andy Reid.
Yeah, what have you done for me lately? It won't be until he goes into the Hall of Fame that those people will even remember he was at Philadelphia. You know, and that's a shame. That's like, for instance, I'm trying my best for people to not have a clue that I punted in the NFL, right? That is the goal, is like people have to be told, oh, he punted in the NFL. Now that's obviously going to be tough because the NFL is the NFL, but that is the goal, I think, of everywhere. And he should be proud of what he did in Philadelphia, obviously. They did it's not easy to get to 4 straight NFC championship games or anything like that. But damn, what he's going to be able to do in Kansas City with that team, with now he's getting $60 million, I would assume. Now we don't know that for sure, but that team just being together, so Belichick's got $12 million. Pete Carroll, $11 million. Those two are GMs and head coach, though, basically, right? Don't they?
And that Andy at the bottom, that was from July 20th, so that was before this extension.
Yeah, and he just won a Super Bowl, so you would assume they'd up that thing at least 25%, which would be another $2 million. Yeah, I would assume he's making like $10 million a year. Now, we'll never know that information. We have no idea. The amount of cheeseburgers, didn't know what he said?
Oh, yeah.
A cheeseburger and a couple Hawaiian shirts. The amount of things that could buy for Andy Reid is just good for him, but somehow they're sticking together. And normally, you would think like egos would get in the way. Like after you win a Super Bowl, I guess Chris Jones, there was a little chance that he wasn't going to show up, but they get him signed. I don't know how long, and this is why the Tom and Bill thing was so impressive, because egos normally get in the way of a relationship like that. If that team, who seems to be all bought in on each other, by the way, partying together, having a good time together, they seem to like each other. Sammy Watkins comes back. I mean, if that team can buy in, that now we're talking the next dynasty book by old Benedict, seeing what happened in Kansas City and how the hell they worked the salary cap to keep all these people around.
Well, and I'm sure that's why he's thankful for for his time in Philadelphia too, because he had to deal with a lot of that stuff with like
Oh,
T.O.
yeah.
and Donovan McNabb, so he kind of knows.
Still don't like each other.
Yeah, exactly. Probably never will.
Donovan McNabb was on the show, 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, and I go, you and T.O. ever talk it out? And he goes, no. I actually looked off the camera. I actually looked over here. I was like, well, I hope you two figure that out someday. I think it'll be good for everybody. But there was no sign of like, hey, we're going to make up. But that type of thing Andy Reid probably did have to deal with, obviously. And that's something that is not easy. And that team, man, with all – just anytime you have Tyreek Hill, you can do whatever you want to people because they got to have at least 2 people watching him because he's faster than every human on the planet. Then you have Travis Kelce, you just locked in for his 3rd contract. He has now over $100 million in contracts, which good for Travis Kelce. He's a weapon down the seam. You get Sammy Watkins back.
Hardman.
You got McCole Hardman. Yeah. You got Clyde Edwards-Helaire now. That offensive line is still the offensive line from last year. In a couple of years, I think they're going to have to pay 2 of them. That could be tough for them. But that team, Andy Reid, is just on a dry erase board, just drawing up a bunch of shit, and they can do everything. They can do all of the plays. That's why they're going to be a problem for a long time.
Well, also go along with it, Brett Veach, who's drafted very well. And everyone always talks about how awesome it is when the head coach and GM actually like each other and are on the same page.
Yeah, needs to happen. That's something that doesn't get talked about as much as it should. The head coach and the general manager have to be on the same page. That's why it's much easier to just have one person doing both, because then you know the ship is at least going in one direction. But when you have one person wanting one thing and then the coach being forced to coach these people, but he wants something else, it's a very obvious dynamic that the players see and the players notice. Veach and Reed seem to be tight. Just like Lynch and Shanahan over there, they linked those two together for another 5 years. I think they got a 5-year deal. Belichick's always going to agree with Belichick.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to agree with Belichick.
Smartest guy in the room.
Long time. Yeah. Tom Brady, I mean, might not for certain things, but you got to do what you got to do. Sad news out of the Chargers yesterday. Darwin James, superstar safety for the Los Angeles Chargers. And great personality, by the way. I've seen him do a lot of things. Great personality, great teammate, great football player. Stud for the Chargers. Going to be there for a long time in L.A. He will probably be a staple that they will build around on the defensive side of the ball, because the way it was talked about with the way he plays is they had to fundamentally change the defense whenever he got hurt before, because he was able to do things that, you know, you think about Troy Polamalu, guy who just changed the entire defense. Ed Reed changed the entire defense. And then he's not a safety, but if you look at Darrelle Revis, he changed an entire defense because he just had an entire island where it's like, hey, we can do everything else we want to do. Darwin James is one of those guys for the Chargers. He does his thing, and then the other 10 just kind of have to fill in their spot. So when they lost him before, it was a big hit. The Chargers have been hit by the injury bug harder than most teams, I think, in the last 3 years. We have an entire list of their injuries. In 2017, Mike Williams was out for 5 weeks. Perriman out for 8. Jason Verrett out 15. Joey Bosa 2 years ago out 10 games. Hunter Henry, obviously, you remember Stephen A. Smith said he was going to have a big game. He was out for the entire year. Verrett out again. Darwin James was out 11 games last year. Now he's out for 6 to 8 months. Okung, Mike Williams again. I mean, that's a lot of big-time names getting injuries. And it was, from my sources, okay, from my sources, they went in for the meniscus surgery. They were going to trim the meniscus surgery, which was like a 3 to 5 week recovery time. They thought he was going to be able to come back. Whenever they went in, allegedly, according to my sources, they found out that they had to sew that thing back together, and he will heal, but it is going to be an extended time, 6 to 8 months, full rehab, full recovery. They thought they'd be able to do one thing. They got in there, realized they couldn't. So now Darwin James, one of the best young players in the league, is out for the season, which is a damn shame for the Chargers and for the NFL.
And it was awesome because the Chargers social media was putting out videos of he was going up against Keenan, like he went up against Keenan Allen, and they had a great rep together. And he's like, that's who I need to go up against every single play because these other dudes aren't doing it for me. Like he is so versatile. It's unbelievable what. Like, I have no idea. Maybe Earl Thomas.
And I did not know that. Oh, yeah, Earl Thomas is still out there.
Gus Bradley was Earl Thomas's DC in Seattle, who is now he's now the DC for the Chargers.
Okay, so maybe that is a home now because you need a dominant safety. I don't know if they play the same style. I have no idea. I probably should have looked into that a little bit better. I'm not 100% sure.
At one point, but
you know,
not anymore.
You know, the thing about those two guys is when they play the football and they're playing the football good, tough to replace them, man. Tough to replace. The thing about their football is whenever they're on their feet and they're backpedaling and they're running, they're reading, you know, is it pass, is it run? We don't know, and we're giving out the right. When they're doing that at a high level, good football players. Great football players. Tough to beat. So maybe Earl Thomas is who they bring in. But that also, now Tom Telesco, I don't think Tom Telesco is a guy that's just going to, you know, just, hey, come on in. Anybody can come on in.
No.
You know what I mean? Tom Telesco, I think, is running a pretty Earl Thomas, the leaving in Seattle literally with middle finger up to Pete Carroll. Then Baltimore, they're saying conduct detrimental to the team is why he was cut because he got in a fight with people. It's like that. Those two things, even though it might just be unfortunate situations for old Thomas. Like, for instance, that fight in practice. It might just been an unfortunate situation where something popped off, which can happen. Maybe he was having a bad day, which can happen. But that, with the Seattle thing, with general managers and football people that hate distractions, hate anything like that could mess up their culture, that's going to be something that people are going to ask about with Earl Thomas. I mean, that is going to be a question that's asked. Not that it won't get signed because he's an incredible player, and maybe he'll be able to explain, like, yeah, these were just two very bad situations. But that is something that I would assume everybody has to think about. And Darwin James seems to be loved by his teammates. So it's like, what do we do here?
Well, and then bad timing. I think Adrian Phillips, who was their other starting safety, went to New England this offseason. So,
our secondary is stacked. It bodes well that his old DC coach is for the Chargers, right? Because if he can kind of he already understands Earl.
Maybe.
You know?
I don't know. I honestly, Gus Bradley, by the way, I think is loved by every player that's ever played for him. I used to talk to Gus Bradley in warm-ups whenever he was down in Jacksonville, and I never understood why we started talking to each other, but I enjoyed it every single time. It was like, what's up, Gus? What's up, Pat? Like a full-on thing. Never played for him, obviously. Didn't have any similar people, but I think he's liked by about everybody. Like Gus Bradley's one of those guys. So if he can get Earl Thomas in that defense, buy in, here we go. Maybe it's a great landing spot for Earl Thomas.
well, he's from Minnesota, went to North Dakota, so he's just a nice guy up there.
Oh, Gus Bradley?
Yeah.
Hey, Minnesota nice down there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Minnesota. Brock Lesnar, by the way, free agent.
Oh.
Big WWE news. Brock Lesnar's on the market. Johnny Bones Jones said, I'll beat your ass too, Brock. By the way, I don't recommend any human saying that to Brock Lesnar. No. I am just not 100% sure that's the case. But that's a fight, by the way, that they could do their own pay-per-view.
Oh, yeah.
They could do their own Floyd Mayweather-like thing if they wanted to. So if that is why Brock Lesnar is a free agent from WWE right now, because he knows that this is possible and they're starting to promote that right now, I think that's a big money fight. I think that is something that a lot of money could be brought in for that, a la what Floyd Mayweather was able to do in the boxing world. I think those two names are probably two of the only names, I guess Conor, if they can get Conor McGregor to do a fight on that thing, which he can't because he's locked up by UFC and he retired, but those two would draw, I think. Get Mike Tyson to punch somebody in the prelim and the undercard or whatever. I think that would make a lot of money. Let's pivot back to the NFL. Joining us now is a man that made headlines last week, and his job is not an easy one. The brand new president of the Washington football team, 7-year NFL running back, ladies and gentlemen, Jason Wright. Yeah! Let's go, hey, let's go! Yeah! Come on! What's up, man? What's up, man? Is he muted?
I'm here for it.
Hey, congratulations on getting that president job. That is no easy task, especially for a former player. I was pumped to see it.
Yeah, thanks, bro. It's been an eventful first week, but I'm enjoying it a lot.
What does a president do? I don't think I fully understand the title of president. So what do? You just tie together the entire building, which I've heard is completely on fire over there. Do you just tie the entire place together, Jay? Is that what
you're saying? I got a fire extinguisher sitting around. It depends. It depends team by team, right? In this case, if Coach Rivera is all about wins and losses, I'm all about dollars and cents.
Okay.
It's the expansion of the franchise. It's how we make money. It's how we expand value. And what that means is, connecting with our fans meaningfully, having good business operations, all of that. I'm the business guy.
Okay. Congratulations, by the way. You're not only were an NFL guy, an NFL player, you also have a master's in finance and everything. You were by far ready for this job whenever it comes to the books. But whenever you get this gig, and I don't know how much you knew about what you were getting into, new team name, okay, new brand, have to build an entirely new brand. Exposés coming out about the culture of the workplace, which is being exploited. By the way, everybody on earth is hearing about it. Now, head coach, who seems like the perfect guy for the job, diagnosed with cancer. I mean, this is some unprecedented position for you to be in. What is the mindset? Like, hey, we just kind of have to take care of everything as it go, or just try to slowly, like, what is the mindset every day? That has to be tough to think about. It's a tall task.
I mean, a lot of this stuff I was wide-eyed about coming in, right? I do my due diligence. I don't rush headlong into things. And so the stuff around the culture, I'll still find out once the investigation is completed, if it's, where it all shakes out. But it's clear, like, we've got to root out any vestige of sexual harassment from the organization, and that's a non-trivial task. And while it's a big problem, because it affects people in a very deep and harmful way, the solutions are pretty simple. It's put in good processes, figure out who in the organization is not leading how you want, and move on and move the F on. It's actually quite simple to move forward. And there's a broader set of aspects of culture that will develop too, making sure people feel empowered, they feel equipped to do their work, all that stuff. The identity, the name, the brand, that's exciting to me. Like that's a once in a generation decision that we as a franchise, along with our fans and our sponsors and the leaders of this community, are going to make that shape this organization, this area, for a generation to come. So I'm incredibly excited about that. So I don't even see that as a big burden, but as an opportunity. And even the culture piece I see as an opportunity, frankly, because once we get it right, there's going to be a huge emotional burden lifted off of folks who have worked here for a long time, and they deserve that. You know what I mean? So I see it all as very, very positive. The thing that, is new is Coach Rivera, but that man's a rock. So like he did his press conference and he basically said, like, look, keep it moving, people. I'm good. You should be good. And it's really inspiring. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of swirl, but I'm enjoying it because I see where we're going to be.
Man. Hey, I want to run through a wall right now. That was a hell.
Let's go.
Hey, let's go. I mean, I don't know if I'm tough enough to do that, but so every day you go in there, I would assume with the quarantine protocols, it's a lot different, but I assume that you're communicating with a lot of the employees now and trying to learn as much as you go every single day. How much are you tied into the football side at all, or are you not at all over there?
Yeah, I'm tied in insofar as it helps Coach Rivera set culture, right? So, he had me introduce myself to the guys at practice so they knew who I was, knew what role I was playing, knew what role I wasn't playing, and that's important to make clear. And then, as the team paused to reflect on race and society and have a dialogue in the locker room, like a real talk dialogue in the locker room, they invited me in to share my experiences as a player and as an individual and as a Black man on that. So I'm there to help him shape the culture however he wants me in over there, and he's doing the same for me. We had a big we call them Ask Me Anything sessions, where we're talking to our workforce on the business side and frankly the whole organization about the things we're going through in culture. And Coach Rivera came over to help me lead that conversation. So we work quite closely together, especially in shaping culture. And then on tactical things like COVID and stadium operations, we got to be in sync. Thinking about team travel, the business side and the football side got to work closely together. So we're working close, but it is, like you said, it's a lot of listening, man. Your instincts are right. I'm doing a lot of listening and learning right now.
So whenever I was on the team when Chuck Pagano was diagnosed with leukemia, and it was a moment that was startling, it was crazy, and then it was something that really rallied us together. Right? Like it really brought our entire building together. I'm not just talking players. I'm talking marketing. I'm talking ticket sales. Everybody kind of came together because whenever you're going through something that nobody else goes through, it kind of, does it feel like that's what's happening in the building? Because the Washington football team has been dumped on by everybody. I mean, it is, and that's something that, and with the distractions now, with everything potentially happening, with more investigations and in Coach Rivera, does it feel as if the building is coming together around that? Like, hey, we're good people. We got good people in here. Let's continue to grow on that. Is that what it feels like?
Yeah, I think we're getting there. I think for sure on the football side, Coach and that side of the house have had a little more time to start to build that. And so I think you see the response of the team and the folks in football operations around Coach's diagnosis and just following his general's commander's intent has been really inspiring to see. It's been dope, frankly. And so I see it there. I think on the business side, we're just getting started. I'd be lying if I said, hey, yeah, we're all rallying together after, 1 week of new vision, new direction. No, we got a lot of skeptics. And that's good. And that is good because they should hold us, our new leadership, to a high account. Like skepticism is not a bad thing because I feel very confident that we will deliver on the new culture. But I do think people are already seeing that it's a different approach. We're quite open. I'm very transparent. I talk to folks. I answer their questions directly. I don't dance around it. And so I think folks are seeing that this is a first fruits, a down payment, if you will, on where we're headed. But it's going to take time for us to prove over and over again that we are about what we say.
I'd say you're a bit different. You're probably the only NFL president in history to describe something as dope. I would like to let you know I appreciate and respect that. The Washington football team, you came in, I think, after that decision was made, right? The naming?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so whenever you came in, did they say, hey, we don't know if we're going to stick with Washington football team, we're planning on changing it? Was that a preconceived thing, or was it like, hey, we're open for suggestions on however you want to do this?
Yeah, no, it's open, man. It's wide open. I think, where I aligned with where the marketing team was already headed with this is that it needs to be more than a logo, more than what you put on a jersey. It needs to be about identity. And it's an important moment for us to reset identity. Coaches resetting it on the field. We need to reset it as an organization for the way that we face the media, the way that we talk to our fans, the way that we design the fan experience, the way we engage with leaders in the community, the way that we do charitable work. Like, this new identity and name is going to inform all of that. It needs to be something really substantial that represents the DC, Maryland, Virginia area in a real way. And so I'm on board with the approach we're taking, which is engage fans substantively, a bunch. Get their input, not just in number, but in quality moments, where they feel like they really had their fingerprints on this. Same thing with sponsors. Same thing with political leaders and community leaders in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, because it needs to be a community decision. Not everybody's going to love where the name lands, right? You can only pick one name.
Yep.
But everybody needs to feel like they were part of the process, that they understand how it went, and they need to understand the logic for where we landed. And then we can build the unity that we need to be the fan base that this fan base has been for so many decades.
That's that transparency, though, right? Not just in the building, but with your fans, because I assume the fans have lost a lot of trust potentially in a franchise that they have been very loyal to. I mean, the fan base over there for a long time has been one of the most loyal. I mean, it was the biggest stadium in the NFL there for a little bit before Jerry built Jerry World, and that place was built like a coliseum straight up. I mean, and whenever it was humming back in the day, it was awesome. Let's talk about that stadium and your fans. Going into the season, some people have rolled out how many people they expect to put in the stadium, the protocols of putting in the stadium. I assume that has been a pretty tall task for you, especially where you're at. How are those decisions being made whenever it comes to stadium on how many people are allowed in and what that's going to look like?
Yeah, so the league has given really good guidelines on health and safety procedures. So there's only a maximum level of what you can do that follows health protocols, and that comes from the league. I was skeptical coming in. It's incredibly coordinated. The information flows well. I'm really happy about it, right? And then at the team level, you have a decision you can make on, do you want to push towards that max, which is somewhere around 20 to 30% capacity in the stadiums, or do you want to do something less based on what you're trying to do with your workforce, what you're trying to do in your community, what your community leaders are thinking and saying. And when we took in all that data, we said, hey, for us, we think it's the best bet to do no fans. It's the best bet to do no fans. What we've seen in other leagues, especially both domestically and internationally, the density of a place like DC, for us, the risk was not worth it at this time. And so we're going no fans for now. But it doesn't mean we don't engage fans. It actually ups the bar on how we engage fans over this time period. And I just finished a long meeting before this, that we were focusing on what are the ways that we can really innovate the fan experience during this time. Look, we don't have fans in the stadium, so what can we create using augmented reality and displays that people can use in their homes to overlay? That's like you hold up your phone or something and you've got a scoreboard over the TV that makes it feel like you're in the stadium in some way. How do you get the images of fans into the stadium in different ways? Like, we're thinking about all of these things that build that connection in a new way to help with this year, but also become things that we do going forward if it really engages folks and they really like it. So we're looking at it as an opportunity to innovate while we have the empty stadium.
Should I call you Mr. Wright, Jason, Jay? What should I call you?
Jay or Jason is perfect.
Okay, Jay. How are you? Maybe you guys have, this is just spitballing here. Maybe you guys have somebody from the Washington football team organization go to every season ticket holder's house and dump beer on their back. You know what I mean? Like big play happens, like,
Gatorade.
Gatorade, do whatever you got to do. Maybe that's just a way to make him a little bit more realistic.
I like it.
What do you got, Diggs?
Jason, as a first-time president who is or has to build a new culture, have you or will you reached out to other presidents of organizations that are respected in the league to maybe get some advice on how their teams are run, or is it just a completely different situation with you guys? And then, since you are on the finance side, will you be dealing with player contracts at all or negotiations?
No.
I'll answer the second one first. That's an easy and hard no. I will not be involved with with player negotiations and contracts. On the first one, what I love about the league is people are super collaborative. So other presidents have reached out. I got to get through my freaking text messages because my phone blew up over the last couple weeks. But as I'm getting through, that's actually one of my main priorities is getting on the phone with other presidents. Is so many of them have walked through different things that I'm getting ready to walk through. Kevin DeMoff reached out from the LA Rams, and they've walked through the stadium process that I'm going to undergo over the coming years. So there are multiple folks that are eager to lean in and help, and I've deeply appreciated it, as well as the league office itself. Connecting with folks up there, understanding what other teams do. It's a very open and sharing culture, and it's going to help us get to where we need to get to more quickly.
What did you do before this? What was your gig before this?
Yeah, so when I retired, I went to business school, and I was a management consultant for a big professional service firm. I was a partner at a firm. And basically what I did is I'd take teams, I'd have multiple teams at any given time around the world, helping a business solve some complex problem that they couldn't solve on their own. And usually when you pay money to have external help come in, it was a situation where they were either in financial crisis, reputational crisis, they had some sort of people issue, not dissimilar to the one that we have going on with our independent investigation. Or it could be like a new product launch or something like that. Some big, hairy problem that they ask for help in. And I've been helping companies solve those problems for the last 7 years.
So you're literally the perfect human for this job.
I mean,
Yeah.
you said it.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm by no means am I the perfect person for it. Am I qualified? Yes, but I'm learning a lot already. And I'm grateful for the expertise that's grown up more in the league to help me, shape my thinking as well.
What do you think being a player is going to help you in this entire thing? For 7 years, not normal, by the way. Player who goes 7 years in a league, not, by the way, congratulations, not normal. That is not an easy thing to do. Then become masters, then become a third-party independent thing that saves companies around the world. You're welcome. Then now you're president of a football team. I mean, there's not a lot of players that have ever done that. What do you think? Do you think football has obviously helped you be able to mentally take on all these things?
Yeah, I'll talk about what football did for me heading into business in general, and then what I think it's doing now. Going into business in general, I think there's a lot of smart people in business, but you know this about football, is that you learn a level of resilience and ability to focus under pressure in high-stakes sports that I think is pretty unparalleled. I used to tell people, I learned how to fail in my first few years of the NFL. I mean, I was getting cut every other day, on and off of practice squads, running out of money. I lived with my aunt and uncle in Atlanta when I was with the Falcons because I couldn't afford anything. My rent was like running my aunt's lotto numbers, to the corner store, and then I drove an hour and a half to the practice facility because they lived pretty far away in Atlanta. Like, I learned how to fail, I learned how to grind, and I learned how to recreate my confidence when somebody told me I wasn't good enough.
Okay.
And I think in business, a lot of folks don't get that experience. You're a straight A student, you've always succeeded. Then the first time someone tells you that your spreadsheet sucks, it like tanks your confidence. And for me, I've fumbled in front of 80,000 people and been booed and been in sports centers, not top 10. So I'm good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you yell at me in the boardroom. Okay, I'm over that. Like, let's move it. Let's keep it moving. And so I think it really helped me have a measure of resilience in business that allowed me to be a good counselor to CEOs because I could shoot it straight with them. I was unaffected by, the emotional moments of folks. And that sports helped me a lot there in sort of my leadership capacity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I think now it helps me to bridge the business and football sides of the organization. There's a lot of things at the business side we need the players and coaches and football staff to do to help us expand the value of the franchise. But at the same time, I know that Wednesday morning through Monday afternoon, you need to be on the grind to perform on the field. And so it's on me to shape our business operations in a way that don't draw on those guys and gals during that time period.
Smart.
Yeah. And so that's an important thing and an important lens that I bring, to the table right away. And then as I think about things like game day operations and stadium operations and things like that, having the lens of a former player, I think, helps too. And then I think ultimately it should help the culture of the franchise to feel like one culture, because especially as the guys get into the off season, so it's not divided, right? So especially as the guys get into the off season, I'm happy to help play whatever role I can to help those guys think about their future, the transition out of football, which, as we all know, is not easy. Mine looks good right now, but it sucked along the way. You talk about my wife, my first 2 years, she'd be like, oh, yeah, this man was a mess. So to help folks think through that and help contribute to the culture on the team that Coach Rivera is trying to build, I'm happy to do that too. And there's probably other things I'll find out, but that's what I see now.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I am very, very impressed with this conversation. I'm very thankful that a former player has gotten into the role that you've gotten into. You're blazing trails for a lot of people, and we're very thankful. Can't wait to see you succeed. You got a hell of a fucking climb to get over, but I am pumped to watch you do it. It's an opportunity, Jay. It's an opportunity.
It is an opportunity, bro. It is.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? Keep it moving. New president, Washington football team, Jason Wright. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Hey, he's awesome. Polished.
Yeah.
Hey, he came from a firm that used to deal with PR crises and rebranding things and doing everything. It's like, could there be a more perfect human to get in there? And by the way, former player is a big deal because whenever he was talking about bringing the entire building together, there's two very distinct things in an NFL building. It's the football side, and then there's the business side. And the business side isn't always on the same page as the football side, and you can see it through a lot of different things if you look closely enough, where it's the social media, the way the social media is handled, whether the day-to-day operations, you can kind of tell. When a building is all together, though, it is obviously, just like a football team when everybody's together, just a much better thing for everybody. But he's got some tall tasks. I mean, there is some tall things, but the way he spun everything into an opportunity, it's like, oh, this guy is like President 101 right here. Like, this guy is the guy. Like, it's not an obstacle, it's an opportunity. It's like, I've seen a lot of people on Instagram say that, but boy, when you actually have to do it, that is a much different ballgame than just pandering on the internet. Shout out to my Twitter account, by the way.
Yeah, and it seems like he is like largely removed his ego from the equation too. Like he fully well understands like how difficult this is going to be and that there's going to be like a lot of bumps and bruises, but it doesn't seem like he's in it for himself, you know, to like build his own reputation.
It's so interesting to hear him talk about how I've fumbled in front of 80,000. I've been on SportsCenter Not 10. It's like whenever you get humbled at that level, it's kind of hard to take anything too serious, you know, after that. It's like, okay, I mean, I peed my pants, whatever. Just keep it moving, bro.
Dude, he said it perfectly. Like the people that didn't do sports as they were growing up, like, and I worked with them in the office and stuff like that. Like, the boss would yell at them and they would just absolutely crumble and go cry in the hallway. But like when you have been called every single name under the sun by a coach, like that doesn't affect you at all.
While tobacco's getting spit.
Yeah.
You sack of. All right, I tried, man. I didn't mean to miss. Leaving me, I tried to put it through. Hey, well, you got to try harder, mother. It's like, okay, all right. So it can't be anything harder than this. By the way, it gets to a point, though, where you get sick of people yelling at you like that. Ain't that right up in Boston?
No, you don't really get sick.
right.
You don't
Sounds
really
like it.
Pressure makes diamonds. Super Bowl diamonds. You get those in the I mean, that's just what happens. Not Super Bowl. How were your interactions with the Colts team president at the time compared to someone like that?
So I don't know if that's what Pete Ward is. I think Pete Ward is that for the Indianapolis Colts. I've always had a great relationship with Pete Ward. He was a very cool guy. He had a lot on his plate. I remember going into his office a couple times, and he just had he had one of the biggest desks I've ever seen, and it was just littered with like perfectly placed, like kind of like in a organized chaos fashion, but just he had things from ticketing here. He had like game day operations, security here. He had like basically his desk was just a pile of, oh my God, that looks terrible. But he was always super upbeat, good guy. Yeah. He's the one I called, by the way, for
the plane.
The plane.
Oh,
the
okay.
Buffalo. Yeah, he's a good guy. I think he is a good dude, but having a former player in there, I mean, that's just a completely different.
He just has chief operating officer.
COO.
Yeah, so that's why I think I potentially didn't know what a president did.
There is no president listed for the Colts.
Yeah, so Pete Ward, I think, would be the closest, I guess, other than Jim Irsay. And he is, I mean, he's got to juggle a lot of things. I remember I told him one time that our pre-warm-up music. So kickers come out before warm-up to get like a warm-up. It's with no stadium. There's nobody in the stadium. And the music was so terrible. And it's like, this is at like 10:30 in the morning. I just taken an Ambien and pass out. Like, hey, I'd like to wake up as well. You know, like I wouldn't mind some good music for our particular warm-up. And it was like, big girls don't cry. And like that whole song's banging. And then like YMCA's playing or whatever, you know. And the only people that, I'm looking around the stadium, and literally the only people that are in there listening is like me, Vinatieri, Overton, and then all of their specialists. And I'm like, not a single one of us want to listen to this fucking song. So I go to Pete. I go, Pete, is there any way we can change the pre-warm-up music? And he was like, what? I was like, okay. So there's music on before the warm-up happens, before the stadium's even open. In the music, it is so bad. He's like, yeah, just make a mix or whatever. I'm like, okay, made a mix, but in it, next game, we had Timmy Trumpet leading off. I mean, it was a entire thing. So that's the type of shit that I assume the head person has to deal with. I'm not sure many players go up to him and go, hey, is there any way we can change the music when there's nobody in the stadium so I can wake up a little bit? But that's the type of stuff they got to deal with. Is just like, the minuscule, grand and tiny little things to make the whole place operate. And he's got to completely rebrand a building, but that's what he's been doing for the last 7 years.
I also enjoyed that he wasn't like, yeah, we already have it. Like, we already have it figured out. Like, it's already fixed. Like, he wasn't like that. Like, Bruce Allen would have been like, if we were just interviewing Bruce Allen, he'd be like, culture's great here.
Culture's pretty good.
We actually solved the problem overnight.
Did you read that Washington Post article? Every person in there, gone. Culture good. I mean, it is. That's what Bruce Allen would have said.
Oh, yeah.
Dan Snyder came out this morning that he asked for Roger Goodell to intervene in the investigation that's happening of the Washington football team right now at his suggestion, he said. So, I mean, there's a lot going on over there.
I bet.
Jason Wright has a lot to figure out. We still have a lot on the sidebar we have to hit. Hour 2 is about to begin on the other side of this. I'm going to go to the bathroom. We can't thank you enough for watching. We'll be back on the other side. Great guest in the second hour, Charles Robinson. Not the WWE ref. Okay,
Chucky.
He's Yahoo Sports NFL insider. He knows everything about Jadeveon Clowney somehow.
Yep.
So we'll probably get a Jadeveon Clowney update from him. He works for Yahoo Sports, still a company. And then in the third hour, AJ Hawk will join us, obviously. Daily thing, except for tomorrow, because he's got something with his brother-in-law, Brady Quinn. Unbelievable. And General Bob Carpenter. General Bob Carpenter of the Big Ten Army will be joining us. And he has been the voice of Big Ten fans who are pissed about the suspension and postponement. And it came out.
Dance with me.
Came out that there was an 11-3 vote, and the 3 teams that voted against the postponement of the Big Ten schedule was Iowa, Nebraska, and the Ohio State. General Bob Carpenter is going to be on one. We'll talk to him in the third hour. We got 2 hours left. I'm going to go take a piss. This is the Pat McAfee Show.
Hi, how's it going? My name is Pat McAfee. Used to hold balls for Adam Vinatieri. Now I'm in his home state. College game day is absolutely electric. In Brookings, South Dakota. Let's go!
College game day has made the voyage to Brookings, South Dakota to experience a game with the best fans in college football. I unfortunately cannot attend because I have a game this Sunday, so I sent a man I trust to make my picks. A man who was my holder for almost a decade. Please be nice to him. Welcome this week's celebrity guest picker, Pat McAfee.
Go big, go blue, go Jacks.
Hosting Auburn. Yes, everybody saw this. The best fake punt in the world. What do you think, Pat?
I absolutely loved it all the way up until execution time. That is not one we like to show in the brand headquarters and punting and kicking world.
Oh, dance off. Oh, let's get weird. Yes. Duck that, huh?
Bang! Right off the top of the dome. That makes it a lot easier when you got a dummy standing right in front of you like that.
Running. He's Hayden Daniel Russo.
Wax on, wax off, knee to the face.
World Series.
Go,
Yes.
go, yes.
These teams stink. With that 15, they celebrate by doing shotguns. And I know they figured it out. I'm going with the University of Virginia Cavaliers. That was great. Whoa! And I will never, ever in the history of my life try to against that ball. Oh, I'm saying this, so we're here. Not so fast again.
But I'm going Trey.
Please excuse my dumb friend Kirk. Look at this crowd. They've been out here since 4 a.m. College game day comes to town. They lose their mind. The population of this state is about 800,000. And when the Jackrabbits take the field, they're alongside all 800,000 South Dakotans. The Dakota bunker was in Fargo for far too long. Today, 5 o'clock local time, the Dakota Marker is back in beautiful Brookings, South Dakota. Adamson and Terry School. They might be the Jackrabbits, but they're the GOATs today. Ladies and gentlemen, South Dakota State with the win. Give me everybody say no. Don't do that. No. Leave. Coach. He has the no. Pat says it'll be no.
I told you I came on your radio show that we were going to get you on College Game Day.
Not only are you incredibly intelligent and handsome, you're a man of your word. You picked North Dakota today, so I had to bury you.
That's okay.
But it's been nothing but incredible. The College Game Day crew is hospitable. In South Dakota State, I think we can all agree, they showed up here.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I've watched the show, obviously, forever. And it's on in every single NFL locker room. My coaches are. So this is a big-time deal for me, my family, my friends.
All right, I'm back in the day here. Appreciate you, boys.
It's from the training room with the Colts. A.J. Watt tweeted. I get texts from every human that I've ever done television with, like since way back in the day. They're like, we knew this day would come. Quick managers, old teammates. I mean, you don't get to trend on Twitter often anymore. They make it damn near impossible. Go up onto a stage with a couple legends, talk some shit in front of the incredible South Dakota fans. What an awesome opportunity.
Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show. 105 Eastern Daylight Time.
Hell yeah.
What? Yeah, not Eastern Standard Time, because Eastern Standard Time is the other part of the year where we do something with the clock instead of move it back and move it forward. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because we do daylight savings time.
So after
Spring ahead, fall back.
Spring ahead is daylight.
That's standard. And so I'm sorry, that's daylight savings.
And then in the fall, we'll go to standard time.
We'll go back standard.
So it stands for early
departure
dysfunctional?
time, which is you from this conversation. No, Eastern Daylight Time.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
I am so sorry.
Man. That makes sense.
I don't know if you've ever dunked on Zito like that.
That one hurts. That one hurts.
Oh, boy.
Cold-blooded.
I can't wait to save that for tonight.
Standing under the
That one hurts.
Zito, you did not deserve that.
Did I, though?
No, you didn't.
Did I?
I was talking to Mansuri. It looked like
right over him. Yeah.
Mansuri, you didn't deserve that either.
No, you know what? It's okay. I'll take it.
That's we just talked to such a positive guy, Jason Wright. I just had to get some toxicity out.
Yeah.
That's on me.
It's
Zito,
the room. It's the room you're in.
I know it's starting to creep in.
Not at all. No.
This room's like an hourglass of toxicity, and there wasn't any breaking out during that conversation.
Yeah.
So.
Gets him out.
That's on me.
Filling up.
Zito, I love you, man.
Someone needs to get it around.
No, you should have been in a conversation.
Yeah, where's
okay,
Mint?
let's go to. By the way, it's nice to know it's still in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice to know still got it. Still got
It
it.
went down.
You know, Pander and Pat on Twitter right now.
Crush it.
Most positive place you can find is my Twitter account.
Oh, yeah.
And for those that are watching this show, we're in on a little secret, okay? Because this is never going to get clipped and this won't be aired again. This is just for people that watch the whole show live. Twitter has buried me, okay? And I'm not an OG of Twitter. I'm not one of the first people, but Twitter used to be where I go. I'll send out a tweet. My dad won't even see it. My dad only follows like 4 people or whatever. I just get buried in there. So I am completely pandering Twitter right now. So if you want to be a part of a Pandering Pat mission on Twitter, just go ahead and send that thing a retweet. Today, I want to say there's like 50 members of the Army because as soon as I put a tweet out this morning, that thing was retweeted as soon as it went. We're trying to catch up with the algorithm to old Twitter here. And the only way to do that is now granted, I mean what I'm saying. I would like it to be known. I mean what I'm saying.
Sure.
But I
Always.
feel like they're very self-serving tweets to put out there that, I'm past like hey, let's go. But yeah, Twitter's forcing my hand and we're all in this together. The Pandering Pat Twitter account Army is what I need you to join. Any tweet I put out, just go ahead and retweet that thing so we can go to war against the algorithm of Twitter. What's up, Nick?
1,400 retweets you're up to.
Yeah, see? 1,400 retweets on my motivational this morning, and it all stemmed around the Jamaican bobsled team Cool Runnings quote.
Oh, yeah.
We were going to put the Cool Runnings quote in there, but instead backed off of that one with my own remix version of that. And boy, it had 50 retweets within the first second and a half of it being tweeted out there. So I appreciate that pandering Twitter army that we currently have. Got to beat the algorithm somehow. Twitter has completely buried me.
Yeah. Fake motivation Twitter is a strong Twitter.
You gotta play the game.
That's Twitter algorithm. Twitter wants you to be either political or fake motivational. And listen, I got faux motivation for days.
Oh, yeah.
That's French, by the way, what I just said there. Faux. I have faux motivation for days. I used to do it literally with every single football team meeting I walked into because I look around at a room full of guys who were about to be bored as hell and they knew it. So I came in every single day. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Guys, they say this meeting's only going to happen one time for the rest of our lives. Let's go ahead and learn everything we possibly can. Let's go get to it, Tom McMahon. Let's go. At 7:30 in the morning, nobody wants to be in that special teams meeting. I got all the faux motivation you could possibly need. Even for Tom McMahon sometimes. That guy, I knew he wasn't feeling himself in the morning. It's early. We're going to talk about the same thing we talked about yesterday. Let me come in here and just scream something ridiculous. I'll get an entire fake clap from everybody. Yeah! And then about 2 minutes in, that's all forgotten. You know what I mean? A minute and a half, 2 minutes in, it's all forgotten, and here we are. So that's what I got to do to Twitter. I appreciate you joining our army. Now, there is two things that I can predict because the internet loves whenever we predict shit. It's just kind of the YouTube algorithm. We could talk about division winners or comeback player of the year candidates that is absolutely loaded this year. Maybe the most loaded it's ever been in NFL history. What do we want to hit first?
Division winners, comeback player of the year. Division winners.
Okay, nice. So NFL division winners. We're going to predict a couple divisions here for their winner because we want our listeners, our viewers, to go ahead and take their hammers out, go to FanDuel, and take every single dollar that they have. The divisions that we will be predicting today are the North divisions. Let's start with AFC North. Let's go to the AFC North. Ladies and gentlemen, the Baltimore Ravens, who have the reigning MVP in Lamar Jackson at quarterback. Now, what they are also is obviously favored to win the AFC North because they won it last year. They were 14-2 last year, an incredible team. They ran into the Tennessee Titans, which came into a buzzsaw type fashion in the playoffs until they ran into the buzziest saw of them all in Kansas City Chiefs. Lamar Jackson is a guy who completely changed the game, a unicorn, an alien, an anomaly, a guy that you can't prepare for because you can say we'll put an athlete back there at quarterback, but what Lamar Jackson was able to do on the field was just different than any other human in history. It was Michael Vick-esque, but it was different than even Michael Vick. It was amazing to watch, led him to an MVP, led to the Baltimore Ravens completely changing their entire offense to become a triple tight end set. Let's go ahead and take advantage of having all 11 players on our field be dangerous at the same time. They're favored. And second is the Steelers. They come back with Ben Roethlisberger. That defense last year almost led them to a playoff berth all by themselves. They trade for Minkah Fitzpatrick out of Miami last year. Everybody says, what are they doing? They should be tanking. They lose Ben Roethlisberger because he's got tennis elbow. And I guess all of the tendons we learned from his terrible documentary. That was a bad documentary.
Worst out there.
Not Roethlisberger's fault. Just the way they did it was just, it was a bad.
Wasn't his fault.
It wasn't Ben Roethlisberger's fault that documentary is bad. But I just think the way they pieced it together wasn't great. Ted Lasso, great documentary.
Yeah.
Ben Roethlisberger's documentary, not as great. But I guess all the tendons ripped off of his elbow. So they had to do reconstructive surgery, basically. His wife and he had a full conversation. He said he's not done yet. He wants to come back. Coach Randy, his guy, is their offense coordinator. If Ben Roethlisberger can be anything similar to what he was before his elbow fell off, that team is promised to make a playoff with that defense. Tomlin seems to be a coach who everybody's going to rally around. They always will. He doesn't talk much. They won games with Duck Hodges and that guy that got hit in the head with his own helmet. I mean, that is something that is not easy to do. Cleveland Browns, they have all the talent in the world. Is Baker Mayfield going to be a quarterback that's going to have a job next year or not? Make or break season for Baker Mayfield, especially with new GM, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, and last year, not a great year. Now, Freddie Kitchens obviously set them up for failure in a lot of situations, but with the Cleveland Browns, who just signed Myles Garrett, they bring in Austin Hooper, they still have Jarvis Landry, they got OBJ, they got Stefanski, who put together the Vikings offense that was moving and grooving. Is Baker Mayfield a legit quarterback? That'll be the biggest key here for the Cleveland Browns potentially winning the AFC North. And then the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals, the only team in the NFL that doesn't have an indoor practice facility. They practice next to a highway. They got enough grit to make the entire AFC North jealous of how tough they are. They got a brand new quarterback in Joe Burrow. They get rid of Andy Dalton. They were a team last year that wasn't trying to lose, but successfully lost better than everybody else and got the number one overall pick. They also spent money in the offseason. One of them was Trey Waynes. He ends up getting hurt. They spend a bunch of money. He's gone. Cincinnati Bengals can't buy a break, and this guy's second year as a head coach. Is he going to be worth a fuck? Nobody knows. So my eyes, the winner of the AFC North is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh!
Now, I do think Baltimore's going to make the playoffs. Okay, I think Baltimore's going to have a team that's going to make the playoffs. I think losing Marshall Yonda, okay, is going to be bigger than people think. In a lot of plays last year, Lamar Jackson, if he zigs instead of zags, he's going to get tackled and probably not be as spectacular. Will Lamar Jackson fall off? I don't think so, but I think some plays that he made last year will get stuffed this upcoming year, which will be a little bit different. I still think they make the playoffs, potentially make a run in the playoffs, but I think who's going to win the AFC North is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's strictly because walking boot, new arm, clear sheets, clear socks, clear screens. Ben Roethlisberger's back.
Come on.
And I think that is something that has to be taken into account. I have the Pittsburgh Steelers winning the AFC North, with the Baltimore Ravens also making the playoffs but not winning the AFC North.
Probably going to be similar to a Mighty Ducks season when Adam Banks walked in the locker room and he woke up that morning and the pain was gone.
He could rotate the stick.
And then the pain was gone. And the one thing with the Steelers that they've been missing for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, there's absolutely zero drama. With this team right now, they all love each other. The only fucking drama is if Juju could just get the fuck off of TikTok.
Why?
Pittsburgh's out on Juju.
Whoa, he's young. He's happy. He's dancing. He's
better at content than TikTok's the worst, and Juju doing it's
what it's all
absolutely.
Whoa.
It's your number one receiver.
TikTok's
he's
about
not.
time.
He's probably number 3 wide receiver on that team.
Whoa, Tony.
So is that an issue? They don't have a wide receiver?
No, Deontay Johnson, wide receiver of the future, baby.
Oh no!
Wow, I didn't know you turn on Juju like.
Oh
that.
yeah.
No.
I mean, Joe Hayden's a great corner, but no one is saying that Joe Hayden is a thumper, and he absolutely laid Juju out the other night because Juju's gotten soft.
Wow.
Jeez. I mean, Ebron's not going to help that locker room.
Oh yeah,
at all
it's his
either.
first year at places. He always plays great. Next year, maybe not, but this year he's going to be great.
I just said the Steelers are going to win the division, and now the biggest Steelers fan that I know is
Shuts
basically
down
telling
the
me
whole
not to do
roster.
it.
Oh no!
Don't do it, you said.
Oh no, they're going to win the division. I'm just saying Juju stinks.
Trouble in the
Wow.
Steelers fanhood?
Yeah.
And you're wearing a 412 shirt, which is Pittsburgh, and a Blue Jays hat because you thought they were going to be in Pittsburgh, and you got hustled into buying
Listen,
a hat.
I'm pretty sure I echo the sentiments of the city when I speak about
Nobody
Juju.
I think Juju's primed for a big year. He's working out in his garage. He got in the best shape of his life. James Conner's getting in good shape. I think the Steelers win the AFC North.
I also don't think you can discount that Ben has his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ guiding the football into his receivers' hands this year, which he probably hasn't had in years past. He might throw 75 touchdowns
And
this
if
year.
he doesn't do the testimony that he did on the Zoom call that everybody ripped and immediately put onto the internet the next morning, I don't think Jesus Christ has his back as much as he does now.
Not this year.
Not this year. Not this team.
Not this team.
Not this division. Not this Ben. All right, the NFC North. Let's go to the NFC North. Now, a couple of people have been on the internet saying the Detroit Lions quarterback, Matthew Stafford, who had a broken freaking back last year, is the best quarterback in the NFC North.
What? Smart people.
People have said that. Now, I do believe that is tough to say because that G with a yellow circle around it up there still has Aaron Rodgers. They also have Jordan Love, who we have seen in practice is an absolute superstar, might have his own package for the Green Bay Packers. No offense to Jordan Love. He does not deserve any of this. He's been put in a position by Gutekunst, who's an absolute stooge. The Green Bay Packers win the NFC champion or go to the NFC championship game, and they do not account for anything that made them lose that game. So they're not thinking about getting to the Super Bowl. They're thinking about how we win the NFC North. 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs. That's how you do it.
Yep.
I like the Green Bay Packers a lot. Chicago Bears, Nagy came out and said he won't announce a starter. Then he came out, we'll announce a starter next week. Everybody with any information of the subject thinks that Nick Foles is going to be announced as a starter. What will that do for the locker room? Mitchell Trubisky had a rough year last year. It's going to be tough for old Mitch. I don't know if he's the starter and Nick Foles is sitting there. All he's got to do is throw, 1 incompletion, 1 rollout, ball into the dirt, 1 pick, and everybody's going to be calling for Nick Foles. Interesting situation, but Nagy feels like he's getting his people in there. By the way, Teddy Ginn, our guy, is up there, got a deep threat. I mean, maybe the Chicago Bears have a rebound year, especially with Nagy getting his guys in there. It doesn't seem likely. And the Minnesota Vikings, the winners last year, who won into the Saints Superdome and won a playoff game with Kyle Rudolph shoving a corner harder than anybody who's ever shoved a corner to win a game. Now, Kyle Rudolph will say it wasn't a push-off at all, but if you listen to Saints fans, the way they describe it is what I just said there. Minnesota Vikings lose Stephon Diggs, but they draft
Justin Jefferson
out of LSU, who's an absolute stud. They still have Thielen. They have Kyle Rudolph. They have big play, prime time Kirk Cousins under center, who found his groove last year, winning down in Dallas in primetime and winning a primetime playoff game, which nobody had thought he could do. The Minnesota Vikings seem to be a team that would not have that big of a drop-off, even after losing Stephon Diggs, but I don't think the Minnesota Vikings win the NFC North.
They also just got Ngakoue, too.
Oh.
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. Him and Hunter.
I'm just going to say the Green Bay Packers because I love Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say.
Now, I do think the Detroit Lions, though, are going to hammer the over under for 7 wins, but I think the Green Bay Packers win the NFC North strictly because Aaron Rodgers is going to put on an absolute superhero cape, and he's just going to win games for them. Now, I don't know how that stops the run because they weren't able to do that last year. I'm not 100% sure how they do that, but I'm going to bet on Aaron Rodgers anytime I can bet on Aaron Rodgers, and I think Detroit Lions, sneaky, incredible season next year, and people are going to be like, is that the Detroit Lions? Yeah, it is because they're in all 16 games and somehow lost 15.
Great value on the Lions. Maybe sprinkle
great.
a little on them.
Hey, people forget the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have won the NFC North before the Detroit Lions have. So I don't think they're going to win it all. They're still going to go 10-6 and win a playoff game.
Whoa.
So I don't mind your pick.
What did you think last year?
We're going to go 10-6 and win a playoff game.
And what did you think the year before that?
10-6 and win a playoff game.
That is just the dream. And last year, could have done it. Instead, lose all the games you had to lead in in the fourth quarter.
Well, we're like the San Francisco 49ers, all right? We got our draft picks. We got our team together. Third-year head coach and Matt Patricia. We're ready to roll. Stafford's back, just like Garoppolo was back. We're making it to the Super Bowl.
Who'd you guys draft? Corner?
Yeah, Jeff Okudah.
Has there been any reports of him coming out of camp? Is he balling?
No.
Yeah,
I think he's thinking about opting out. Actually.
No, of course he's balling. Yeah, he's balling.
Well, he's still got Jake Blau, too.
Oh, yeah. Completely forgot about Joey Blau.
Yeah.
Joey Blau will step in there in a big-time situation if he has to. Thanksgiving Day in Dallas. Our quarterback's got a broken freaking back. Joey Blau is
Jim
on
Blau.
the call.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Drew Blau.
Dennis Blau.
David Blau.
Jesus.
Oh, jeez.
Poor guy. He does not deserve that. More awards. There's the AFC North and the NFC North. I assume we'll do more of those throughout the season or throughout the week leading up to the season kicking off next Thursday, by the way. Hey,
9 days.
NFL football is next Thursday night.
What?
Next Thursday night. No way. Next Thursday night is NFL football.
Come on!
This September, you can feel it in the air.
I really can.
Yeah.
This morning when I walked from the parking lot over to the office, I saw 2 homeless people getting it on. I also felt a little bit of a brisk breeze down the street. It hit me in my arms. I said, is it football weather? It feels like it's football weather. It feels like it's football season. Next Thursday night, the NFL is back. We're 9 days away from Houston and Kansas City. I am excited to say that. And those are the AFC North and the NFC North champions. We'll pick every single division before Thursday so you can get your bets in and your money in. Here's an award that I think you can probably bet futures bets on right now, but is packed to the gills. I mean, this NFL Comeback Player of the Year, the candidates are superstars. Not only do you have the reborn, brand new Ben Roethlisberger at the top of the charts there with plus 260. You got Cam Newton going to New England, and we've all heard the incredibly glowing praises that Bill Belichick has had for Cam Newton. If they can figure out how to win football games, which Bill Belichick has proven that he will be able to win football games with whatever, there's a great Alex Smith. I don't know how that works. If he ends up playing football on the field, just give him like every humanitarian award you could potentially give somebody.
Nobel Peace Prize.
He was damn near dead at one point. I think he has a hamstring as a shin bone right now. If he is taking snaps at quarterback for the Washington football team and plays well enough to potentially be in for the NFL Comeback Player of the Year, just give him maybe the commissioner of the league thing. Just do whatever you got to do. I don't think that one's, Gronkowski coming back. He got rated, a 95 on Madden, so they're expecting him to do great, even though Madden, by the way, has really pissed off our community. We saw quite a bump in numbers yesterday whenever we bashed EA Sports. Want to let you know, I'm not in the fucking game, so fuck him. Matthew Stafford, plus 700, broken back. J.J. Watt, broken back. He's coming back. A.J. Green, he had a hurt foot, but he's already sitting out for something. Nick Foles, Andy Dalton, Myles Garrett, Antonio Brown, Bradley Chubb. He's only going to be able to play 8 games. Darwin James, he's not. Sucks, but he's not. He's out. Alden Smith, C.J. Mosley, Deshaun Jackson. The list goes on and on, all the way down to the Rosen one, Josh Rosen, who is, I do believe, maybe quarterback 4 for the Miami Dolphins right now. That's a long shot, but hey, not bad money on that thing. I like Cam Newton to be the Comeback Player of the Year next year, strictly because Bill Belichick's big-ass brain will figure out a way for them to win. Plus 340, good odds. Ben Roethlisberger, if they lead the Steelers to come back to win the AFC North and make a good run, he's obviously going to be up for it. But boy, Cam Newton's a tough one not to bet on.
There is one player on that list who is on that Comeback Player of the Year list who was not out because of injury, and I don't think he should be on that list.
Who is it?
Myles Garrett.
Yeah. He is coming back. He had that
from an assault.
He had that situation, that situation that happened on prime time television in a game that they were winning where He alleged that something was said to him by quarterback of Pittsburgh Steelers.
Mason Rudolph.
He then goes ahead and takes helmet off of quarterback for Pittsburgh Steelers and then swings and hits quarterback of Pittsburgh Steelers in head with weapon on field on television. Then obviously all hell breaks loose. He gets suspended for the rest of the season because you have to set a precedent that you can't just be taking foreign objects onto the field or off of the field and swinging and hitting them in football. It is something that I've never seen before. I don't think anybody's ever seen before, but he did not play last year, so he is making his comeback. And I think he just signed a massive deal too. So he's coming back richer, more driven, and hopefully without any assaults.
I guess AB is on that list right next to him too. So
yeah, well,
he would be coming back.
Yeah, he's only got 8 games though. It's gonna be tough to win a comeback player of the year.
Eli, maybe throw a little on Eli.
Kareem Hunt should be on.
Didn't Eli Manning do an entire retirement press conference, right?
Yeah.
And then a couple weeks later, he came out and said, I'll kind of feel it out or whatever. Or was that a fake?
I thought it was fake.
Was it for Frank's Red Hot?
He started tweeting.
He was tweeting for Frank's Red Hot.
That was for the matchup or whatever.
Yeah. I also saw he just sold his mansion in New Jersey, so maybe he is looking to.
Hey, that place is nice.
Yeah, very nice.
I have been there.
A real sleeper pick on that list is C.J. Mosley at plus 5,000 there because he did opt out for the season. So unless he changes his mind, but that is still those are good odds.
Well, Darwin James plus 3,300. He's out for the season. I mean, you can bet that.
I mean, what about it's probably not going to happen, but T.Y. Hilton at plus 9,000. What if Phil Rivers is just chucking the ball all around the field this year and he has like 13 touchdowns?
I didn't even know T.Y. was on there. T.Y. Hilton alongside Keenan Allen. Most underrated wide receivers in the NFL. T.Y., now he's 30. I think he's taking on a much more of a leadership role. They got him mic'd up. He was very quiet there early in his career. I got a chance to watch him just show up and show out early. He is very much underappreciated and undervalued. At plus 9,000, if T.Y. Hilton, if they have another weapon, which I don't know if they did.
Michael Pittman is what they're expecting.
Pitt, by the way, T.Y. and Pitt have been getting along. I listened to them mic'd up. They're dapping up and things like that. Good nature or good news, having a good culture in that wide receiver room. Because T.Y. for the last 3 years, he's been the only guy. So if you're the only guy and you're a wide receiver, especially at T.Y.'s size, now that's not saying that he's undersized, but he's not one of those big guys who can go up over 3 people. He just had coverages on him at all times, and it was damn near impossible to find. If Pitt can open up the field, if Pittman can open up the field for him a little bit, and Phillip Rivers in that offense is very comfortable, and Marlon Mack is all the way back playing the way he is. T.Y., Jonathan Taylor, in that defense, how good they are. Yeah. T.Y. could have a massive year, and do not be surprised by it either. The dude is a stud. He just never gets talked about because for the last 3 years, he's been double-teamed every single game, and it's like, what the fuck do you want from the guy?
I saw that Darius Leonard is getting the star treatment on the drug testing.
I'm a big fan of that. He said he's gotten PED tests 3 times in the last month, so he's getting it once a week until, I guess, maybe the first week or whatever. I don't know. Maybe miss. But hey, Darius Leonard, that's what happens, man. You ball, instead of you get to call like Deion Sanders says, you get to piss. That's just the way it goes. Darius, it'll get to a point where you'll feel as if you're disrespected by Roger Goodell and how you played when you don't get selected for a random piss test. That's what it got to me. I wouldn't get piss tests. I'm like, I guess I didn't have that impressive of a day yesterday. And then next week, boom, we're back, baby. Oh, here's a tackle. Boom, piss test that guy. Oh, he just kicked the ball. Boom, piss test that guy. That 40-year-old hit a 50-yard field goal. Boom, piss test that guy. It starts to become like a compliment almost, Darius. And they say it's a random drug test. Just go ahead and wipe that off. It is not. And you'll get it a lot. But Darius Leonard, the maniac, there's another member of the Indianapolis Colts. That Colts team could be cooking down there.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with Duval, it seemed like they're just tanking for whatever reason. That's a 3-team division. I mean, that is very automatically your percentages are higher than everybody else. You only got 3 teams in the division.
Also, it's easy to forget they brought over Buckner too.
Yeah, first-round draft pick there. A lot of people said, why'd you trade away your first pick? He's like, I don't think there's a DeForest Buckner going to be where we're at. What a monster that guy is, by the way.
Beast.
Quentin Nelson's back. That offensive line's back. I mean, here we go. Here we go. Are the Colts going to make a run?
Does it all depend on Phil?
No.
You don't think so?
No, I don't.
Why?
I kind of feel like the Titans are still similar enough of a team last year that they're kind of hitting their stride.
Coming down to earth.
No.
Tannehill got $120 million.
Yeah, Tannehill got out from underneath Adam Gase, dude.
Yeah.
So last time he got paid, he did well too. So.
Well, Gase.
He got $90 million there, I think. I don't think it was 120 or whatever.
Yeah, Gase does stink.
Gase.
And Vrabel is.
I would like it to be known that this show is a very big Gase stinks show.
Oh yeah.
Orlovsky was tweeting about it this morning how much he stinks.
He said, yeah, why don't you use Le'Veon Bell like the Steelers used him? Like, don't just view him as a running back. Like, maybe use him like McCaffrey's used down in Carolina, or why you just waste your money? And Gase is like, well, I didn't choose to pay the guy. That happened before I got here. I didn't make that decision to pay this guy. Get him the hell out of here. Very interesting to see the success that people have had whenever they don't play for Gase.
Yep.
That is very, very interesting.
Kenyon Drake.
Big.
Devontae Parker.
Damian Williams.
Big. I mean, a big success by people whenever they get out from underneath Gase. But maybe, just maybe, they're all just anomaly-like situations.
Yeah.
And it's not Adam Gase. It's the situation that was down there. Maybe that's the case.
It's maybe tough for Tannehill, though, when Derrick Henry goes back to being a slug and stops cracking skulls.
Oh, come Nick. On. He's running up hills, Nick.
What is your problem,
Come on.
Derrick Henry just is hitting his stride right now.
For the past 3 years in fantasy football, Pat, I've been watching this guy real close, okay?
Come on.
Didn't pick him up last year, was sick of his shit, and then all of a sudden he becomes a godsend.
Oh, so you're cursing him.
That's because he had a conversation with Eddie George, and Eddie George told him some things. Eddie George, obviously Titan legend, because Derrick Henry was one of those guys the first couple years in the NFL when they would have a primetime game on television. You would every once in a while see Derrick Henry go for 300 yards, and you're like, is that what it is every single game? Is that what happens every single game? And then it turned out that was not the case. But then Eddie George and he had a conversation, and he became that guy every single game. If Derrick Henry has figured out the football, the NFL football, and last year is indicative of what's going to be this year because he still hasn't got a long-term deal. He got franchise tagged. I think Derrick Henry's going to – no, he signed a long-term deal.
Yeah, he got extended after.
How much?
It was 4 years, 60, I thought.
Not a lot?
I'm on it.
It was a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it was a pretty good deal.
I think Derrick Henry's just hitting his stride. I think he is just figuring out. And I'm somebody that would want him not to be because I'm a Colts fan, obviously, because they paid me to be, a lot of money to be, and they're very nice to me. But I feel like he is only getting hot. Like, I think he's just now getting hot. I think he's just figuring it out. And if Tannehill can do play action every single time, which is what Tannehill did last year.
A.J. Brown, too.
I mean, that's a big-time team down there.
4-year, $50 million, and it's basically a 2-year, $25.5 million.
Oh, yeah, 2-year deal. And then they're going to probably have to renegotiate that, or he's going to leave after 2 years. But I think Derrick Henry's going to ball out.
I think he realized if you do the Marshawn where you just run through a motherfucker's face, that's probably his best recipe.
And is there a deeper meaning to that? Run through a motherfucker's face? Yeah. Okay. Was that 60 minutes? Was it 60 minutes? It was 2020 or something. I mean, Marshawn Lynch is the greatest. The absolute greatest.
I think it was 60.
If you go through his entire work of art of speaking, he is top 5 human of all time, Marshawn Lynch.
Driving around on the cow fields on the trainer's cart.
Down.
Oh.
Is he back? Is he playing still? Is he with Seattle?
I don't think so.
It's interesting.
He was for the last 2 games last year and did pretty well.
He's serving tequila in the Oakland Raiders tailgate section.
Yeah.
Then 2 weeks later, he's scoring touchdowns for the Seattle Seahawks. That's a legend. That is a legend that needs to be talked about more often. And I think 3 weeks before that, he was running over high school kids. I mean, just like Marshawn Lynch is the legend that needs to be talked about.
Currently a free agent.
Hopefully somebody will sign him. I think we have Charles Robinson joining us here 4 minutes. At 1:35, he will be joining us. He is down in Texas and I feel like he's dialed in pretty well down there in Texas. He knows everything about Jadeveon Clowney. He's a Houston guy. We'll talk about that with him. But I think the big story out of Texas this morning is Mike McCarthy, new head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, has instituted some rules for the Dallas Cowboys practices that have put the media in a little bit of a bad spot in their eyes. So those that don't know, the Dallas Cowboys organization has been one of the most transparent organizations of all time. They used to travel their training camp to different places. They had cameras in there. They actually built a practice field in the middle of an office complex that has windows, okay? So there's windows in the entire office that overlook the practice field. Now, for those that have ever been in the NFL know that the amount of conspiracy theories of who's flying planes over practices, who's potentially in training camps, I mean, it is heightened senses by front office people in every NFL team, I believe, that somebody's trying to get information on their team. So the fact that the Cowboys practice facility is literally in the middle of an office complex that anybody can rent the building and watch their practice is is incredible to me. I thought that was something that was a joke. Who told us that?
Darren Woodson.
Darren Woodson was in an office that was overlooking the practice facility. He talked about how Dak Prescott takes the players for extra reps and they run and they do this. And I can see it because it's right outside my office. And I'm like, well, you're a Cowboys guy. You're friends with Jerry. Is it only Cowboys people that are allowed to get that offices? He's like, no. So I immediately was like, well, the Patriots definitely have an office in the penthouse, I would assume. I would assume the Eagles, they have a place up there.
Sure.
I would assume
Giants.
that the Washington football team, Jason Wright, they're like, oh, let's get an office in there. We can just watch their entire practice. I mean, that was insane to me. But now Mike McCarthy, he's shutting down media access to any live reps. He's taking numbers off of jerseys so nobody knows who the hell it is. And Jerry Jones was asked, like, hey, is Mike McCarthy calling all the shots in Dallas? Like, is this a new era? And Jerry said, if I didn't agree with him, we wouldn't have done it. So now the media is literally trying to drive a wedge between these two. Like that question right there. Does Jerry Jones agree with the theory? Okay, so there's a theory out there, Jerry. We were wondering the secrecy. Is Mike McCarthy calling the shots down there? So now what is Jerry supposed to say? Is Jerry supposed to say, yeah, then that's the most anti-Jerry Jones thing of all time, is that somebody else is calling the shots for his company that he's called the shots for his entire career, building the stadium with his own money as opposed to any public money. Like that takes away from the entire Jerry Jones lore. And then if he says, no, I'm calling the shots, then all of a sudden Mike McCarthy's like, oh, is that right? So now that's a tough question for Jerry Jones to have to deal with, and I think he answered it properly here, but it seems to be a new era down in Dallas. Seems to be Mike McCarthy was noticing a lot of the things that we were just hearing about quickly, and he's like, we have to figure out a way to keep some of this under fucking wraps here, okay? We can't just have the media putting out our entire practice film on local news, because you know who's watching that? I'm sure big-time Dallas Cowboy fans watching it. You know who else is watching that? Probably a scout from another motherfucking team that we have to play against, and you guys have everything out there. It is. I understand that the media in Dallas is upset about this change, but if you think about that from a football perspective, why would you want to give anybody an edge on anything, especially in a league, in a team that has not had success in so long? It just seems like the right move. It makes a lot of sense, but it seems like it's ruffling some real feathers down there in Dallas.
Well, it seems like with Jerry probably realized that Mike McCarthy has a spine and Jason Garrett did, so he could probably trust him with some stuff.
So, I mean, you just took a massive shot at the Clapper there. Because I feel like the Clapper was potentially, I feel like the Clapper was potentially handcuffed by Jerry Jones making every decision. So maybe he, in your terms, didn't have a spine because Jerry was making every single decision. It was like, hey, listen, you want to be a head coach? Yeah, okay. We're building up a 15-story building, right? Every single one of these are going to have all glass windows, okay? People can see it, and they can rent it from wherever the hell they want, and you just need to do a better job disguising your plays in practice whenever people are potentially watching. And Jason Garrett's like, what do you want me to do here? I can't say no to this. Mike McCarthy had to come in and set a precedent, I assume, like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is how we're doing it. They first said that they didn't want anybody to get any scouting on players so that they don't sign them, but this is 100% so that the people that are in the buildings watching these practices or whoever's watching these practices don't know exactly who's going to be doing what. I mean, it's wild down in Dallas how transparent they were. It's been successful for them because their fans get to see more than anybody else. But also, it's probably a detriment when it comes to football strategy, if I had to guess.
Yeah, and I would assume that Jerry's just going to have to kind of, it's a huge learning curve because, not that he's necessarily spineless, but I'm sure he's definitely a kiss ass, like whatever Jerry was saying, like, okay, yep, sounds good. And McCarthy, at least from knowing what I know when he was the Packers head coach, like, he doesn't play that bullshit. He's going to say exactly what he means and like what he feels and what he wants.
Oh, listen, we're going to shoot down all these windows. That is interesting. The Mike McCarthy, Jerry Jones relationship is going to be something that's highly scrutinized no matter what happens. Now there's no names or jerseys. The no names or numbers on jerseys. The coaches for the Cowboys have to be so frustrated trying to go through film to see who they're grading. Who is this? Who is this running this route? It's not me, coach. That is you. No, it isn't. Look, that is happening, I assume, every single night. But they have to do it because, and we're not 100% sure if they're doing the practice on the field that is surrounded by humans that could be not in the best interest of the Dallas Cowboys. But for whatever sake, I think Mike McCarthy believes we got to somehow dial back the amount of information we're just feeding to people. And if that's the way to do it, that's the way to do it.
For the players, at least, it's definitely coach, GM, owner, as far as who they're listening to and reporting to, or how is that like respect given almost?
If owner talks, it's normally like, okay, here's.
That's the law. That's the Constitution.
Yeah,
there. Okay.
It depends on your coach, I guess, how the coach sets it up. But normally the coach because the coach, has to cover their ass too. So anytime that a owner is introduced to speak to the team, the coach is introducing them in a way that is very like the person that gives us all of our opportunities. The person that no matter what I ask for, they make happen. The person who is the reason why we're all here. Blah blah blah. Like they set them up for when they talk. GM rarely talks. I think. Like I see videos of Chris Ballard talking to the team at like training camp. I think that's normal during training camp. But other than that, GM doesn't normally talk to the team unless you're the coach and the GM, obviously. But the owner is normally whenever the owner comes to talk. Jim Irsay, when he used to come talk, was awesome, man. It was because you never knew, was this going to be 30 seconds or was this potentially going to be 17, 20 minutes? And for the 17, 20 minutes, like, listen to what he was saying. And this is how a lot of people treated Jim Irsay's Twitter, because he would tweet in metaphors, and everybody was like, oh, that guy's crazy. That guy's crazy. He's lost his mind. It's like, if you listen to what he's saying, and actually he has tales as long as the day. I mean, he has stories about everybody. I learned that when I told him I was going to retire. We talked. I thought that was going to be a 5-10 minute speech. Hour and a half in there. Ooh. We talked about the Beatles. We talked about the future of entertainment. We talked about movies. He had stories. It was awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Do you think most GMs, because I think Lombardi told us, he said, like, hey, the GM should never go in the locker room. Like, that's the player's space. That's their sanctuary. Like, I never even considered going there. Do you think most GMs share that sentiment, or is it just vary?
I think it varies, right? Because the coaches who are the GMs, like, they obviously have to have an interaction.
Right.
But the GM, I don't know. If I'm a GM, and I think AJ Hawk hit on this, if you're just cutting players and doing things, it's hard to get like emotionally attached to anybody. So I think if you're hanging out in a locker room or talking or learning about people, that kind of is, for me, and there might be humans that don't have this, but I feel like that kind of mixes decision-making with how you feel. I mean, it's just a very interesting thing. I guess everybody's kind of their own operation. Like, I assume Jason Wright, presidents aren't just talking to the team. Yeah. I mean, Jason Wright's talking to the team now a couple times, Coach Rivera, because it's a different, this guy's a player now, running the business side of things. I mean, what an incredible fucking story. I very much understand he's the first black president in the NFL, which was a monumental moment. But I think a lot of people also saw it as, hey, that's the first player who's gone and done. Like, that is really, really, really cool. I'm happy he stopped by. Great conversation, too. Is Charles Robinson dead?
I think he's in the bathroom, or we're calling the wrong Charles Robinson. Maybe the WWE guy. I don't know. I texted the booker. She has not replied back yet.
All right, let's go to a break because I do have to go to the bathroom again. I just chugged a green tea. On the other side, we'll have Charles Robinson, Yahoo senior NFL writer. He knows everything going on in Texas somehow. Yahoo's still a company. I don't know if he posts on Yahoo. Does he post on Yahoo?
Yeah, I believe so.
Is he like
a couple articles on there?
So you go to yahoo.com. Who does that?
YahooSports.com, I think.
So people like
there's Yahoo, separate Yahoo. Then you got to type in Yahoo Sports to go to their sports section.
So you go to yahoosports.com, and he is writing things in there as if it was a blog or like columns?
Column, like similar to Tom Curran.
Tom Curran's on Yahoo?
He's on NBC. Similar to
I think it's for the same people whose homepage is like Ask Jeeves. And then that's just like one of like the little like things you can click on.
Is the Yahoo Sports.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This guy deserves it. But like he deserves more people to do.
He does.
Yeah. Every time he talks to us, I love it.
He's the king of Yahoo Sports.
Oh, he might be the only employee of Yahoo Sports. Is he Yahoo Sports? We're talking to Yahoo Sports on the other side. Charles Robinson, this is the Pat McAfee Show.
Lakers, welcome to the Blender, the home of a team and a fan base on a playoff push the likes the world has never seen before. Crescent City, get on your feet for tonight's starting lineups, brought to you by Sprite, an incredibly refreshing drink. Starting at forward was the number 2 overall pick in the 2016 NBA draft. Now he's an NBA All-Star, Brandon Ingram. At forward, this man has been dunking on little white unstoppable, unstoppable 6'6" phenom, Zion Williamson. At center, standing at 8 feet tall, from Georgia Tech, number 22, Derek Favors. This man's family had a reality show in Lithuania. He was born and raised in LA, but he found his J in Vienna. Lonzo Ball. And the OG of the roster. On the court, he's a monster. Braids hanging, shots banging. It's not Drew, it's Drew Holiday. Let's get this done. Thank you very much. Go Pelicans.
That was an incredible evening. I'm sure it was covered on Yahoo Sports, which we just took a little peruse around the website. Nice website.
Great website.
Great website.
Purple.
And one of the experts that talks on there, I think, and writes stuff, ladies and gentlemen, the senior NFL insider for Yahoo Sports, Mr. Yahoo Sports, a man who was only 10 minutes late, Charles Robinson.
Hey, Charles! You know, okay, so two things about this. Number one, first off, I was on a Zoom with a general manager, so I actually have something I can maybe even tell you a little bit of the conversation.
Breaking news!
Wait. But I want to tell you the Red Panda clip there. Yeah. I was like, finally, Pat McAfee has met someone whose job he cannot take.
That's amazing. I appreciate that. You're 100% right, by the way. I was holding that thing for a little bit there. I can never get up on top of that. I don't know if I have the gut sack to do so either. Red Panda is a legend. Whenever I was asked to throw bowls to her, I was like, how could this night get any better? That is how. Let's talk about your life, though, Charles Robinson. I said every time you come on this show, I get mesmerized by the amount of information that you have, because I didn't know, and you know this, you know that I didn't know, the Yahoo Sports was still a thing. We just checked out the website. Fucking really nice website.
Yeah, great design.
You have a good headshot on there and everything. What was the GM call Zoom like, and will you be writing about this, reporting about this? What do we got going on?
I mean, maybe it's interesting. So like the next week is going to be chaos for teams. Like everybody. So right now, a lot of teams are trying to figure out who's going to be available. They're like, because it's not, there's, no game film. No one's really feeling like they're getting real information from inside teams. Everybody's kind of, I think there's a lot of reach outs to the media to try and figure out, hey, who are you hearing's on the bubble? Is there anybody who's going to get cut for salary reasons? And actually a big one right now that a lot of teams are talking about is Riley Reif. with the Minnesota Vikings. They're trying to rework his contract. It's not done yet, but I mean, look, he's on the verge of potentially getting cut, and there are a number of teams that are like, hey, we could use a starting offensive tackle. Is this guy really going to get cut, or is he going to try and figure this out? But you have a lot of teams right now that are trying to figure out, A, how to offload players, onload players from other rosters, and frankly, whether they can even spend money. Because I think there are a lot of general managers right now that feel like teams are sort of ownerships are looking at them saying, look, we know we're not getting a lot of fans in this year. This revenue hit from a fan aspect is going to be bigger than we thought it was going to be. And we don't know that we want to pop, a Logan Ryan 1 year, $7.5 million deal with a guy that hasn't been necessarily in our organization or here for the 14 padded practices. And, we don't even know maybe if this guy could be an injury concern, all these different things right now. So there's a lot of scrambling, and it's starting right now with NFL teams.
That Logan Ryan deal came out of nowhere, by the way. I thought it was from a fake account. Congrats, Logan Ryan, getting $7.5 million after this prolonged free agency is basically what he's going back home to the New York Giants. I know the Rutgers people are all pumped up about him coming back home there as well. I read an article about that. When we're talking about this information coming from the team, Mike McCarthy, the Dallas Cowboys, we just hit on it a little bit. No jersey numbers, no names, and they're saying that's because they don't want information of their players getting to other teams. Is that because all these teams feel as if they are going to have a slew of extra players because of a potential COVID outbreak, or is that just because they're trying to fuck over everybody?
Well, the latter. It's always the latter. I think you're going to see more teams try to sneak guys through waivers onto their practice squad this year. They actually think like, hey, we've got some guys. We might have, we're in a situation where we might have 57, 58 guys we want to keep. We may be able to actually keep the 5 guys this time and get them onto our practice squad and keep them in our organization just because there's no game film out there for anybody to look at. And I asked a couple of teams just about about the McCarthy situation, the fact that they had their scrimmage televised and you had all these fans who were bitching saying like, there's nothing but sideline shots here. There's no all 22 and we're not, they're like losing their minds over this. And it's interesting because I do think that's a Mike McCarthy, he was the cook on that one. And Jerry Jones kind of followed along, which is unusual. Jerry's leaning into Mike McCarthy a little bit here. And, and so, I think teams are going to try to pull some stuff off where they sneak some guys through waivers. In terms of the vets, though, I think people are all going to lean on what they know about guys coming from 2019. And then if it's, undrafted free agents or rookies who get cut, it's going to be their pre-draft evaluations. But as a GM said to me, he's like, look, we're kind of up a creek because we get all of our information in terms of like snagging young guys off of other teams. We get it from the preseason games. We have none of that. So, we'd be taking a flyer basically on if we have any film on them from 2019 and then any pre-draft stuff.
Yeah, the young guys, especially the undrafted guys, are getting completely screwed in this entire thing. The OTA is not getting a chance to learn. The team is not indebted to them at all, so there's no loyalty really. I mean, it's a bad year to be an undrafted free agent, especially a young guy. T's and P's to all of them. Hopefully you get another shot next year, however they figure that out. Let's talk about the vets, though, that are currently free agents. Still some big names, especially names that you know a lot of information about, it seems like, every time we talk to you. Earl Thomas is still out there. Antonio Brown knows that he has an 8-game suspension currently at the moment. He's still out there. Jadeveon Clowney still out there. What are you hearing about them? And are teams just waiting to pull the trigger, or is it all on the player side here?
Well, okay, so Antonio Brown first. I really truly believe that if he does not screw up, like if he's on his absolute best behavior, and there's no more off the field stuff that comes out, Geno Smith, Russell Wilson are pushing for him pretty hard in Seattle. Seattle's dealt with players that can be pretty mercurial. I think if the season starts and Seattle sits there and goes, hey, this is like an over-the-top player we can add in the middle of the season, and all of a sudden, we feel pretty good about the start, but this is sort of the enhancement that we get, maybe almost the way the Patriots tried to add Antonio Brown last season because they felt like, hey, this is the piece that clicks everything in place. I'd be shocked if Seattle doesn't really maybe make a run at Antonio Brown once his suspension's up.
Okay, Chucky Robinson, some breaking news there with Antonio Brown. I mean, that might have been on Yahoo Sports earlier. I did not see it. That's on me. But that is big news there that the Seattle Seahawks are pushing hard to get in the Antonio Brown sweepstakes. How about Jadeveon Clowney? What's going on with him? I assume there's teams interested.
Well, there's teams interested, but okay, so the Titans still have not been able to get him in for a physical. I think they're really frustrated. Yannick Ngakoue, that trade did not help him. Okay, so Ngakoue goes to Minnesota. He takes the haircut for $12 million a season, and already you had teams that were staring at Jadeveon Clowney going, we want to offer you $12 million a season. Seattle came out of the box at $12 million a season for one season for Jadeveon Clowney. He left a deal, so Cleveland offered him 1, 2, and 3 year deals that were all between $17 and $18 million. That's not coming. Any team I've talked to now, that's just not something they'd be interested in offering him. The longer this is gone, I think the less likely it is that he's going to get north of $15 million, and he's not getting anything beyond a 1 year deal. So I said this repeatedly. I'll keep repeating it. I think it's Tennessee and Seattle, and I think it's all on Clowney deciding, really what the number is that he's willing to play for. And if it's sub 15, this I think can get done. Maybe it's 12 or 13 with incentives that could potentially push it, but there's just his market is not great. And then Ngakoue taking $12 million and not winning a no franchise clause in the trade was something that really hurt. Think
is
about
this
this.
Jadeveon Clowney? Hold on, no. Like if his agent lost him $51 million potentially from Cleveland or whatever it is.
It wasn't his agent though.
You think it's Clowney? This is 100% Clowney, huh?
Absolutely, that was Clowney. There's been times where teams have said, "Is he going to fire Bus Cook?" Like they're like, "Is there a problem between Jadeveon Clowney and Bus Cook?" Because there have been times where teams have told me they've reached out to Bus Cook and said, "We need to get Jadeveon on the phone. We want to talk to him," and Bus Cook was kind of like, "I'll do what I can," and so this is Jadeveon Clowney absolutely who's driving this. But again, think about Ngakoue. You had the Minnesota Vikings who are like, we could go sign Clowney for $15, $16, $17 million for a season, or we could give up a second-round pick and a fifth-round pick, and go get Yannick Ngakoue for $12 million. Instead, we'll give up the assets and the money and go get Yannick Ngakoue. I mean, I don't want to say it's an indictment on Jadeveon Clowney, but there's concerns about him having sat out all this time, the injuries from prior, the fact he hasn't been in for physicals. There's just a lot there that I think teams are really disconcerted about.
Chuck, we have some breaking news on a guy you literally just mentioned. Tom Pelissaro of the NFL Network reports, and I assume you would have reported this, but you're doing the interview, so we appreciate that. The Vikings are finalizing a restructured contract with left tackle Riley Reif. Sources tell him and Ian Rappaport one day after Reif was offered a pay cut and said goodbye to teammates, he's back and the O-line stays intact. I don't know how that happens, but good for Riley Reif getting a new deal one day after saying, hey, I'm out of here. I'm gone, boys.
And this is disappointing to a lot of NFL teams, trust me, because the two things, interestingly, that I'm hearing a lot about right now is teams are looking for, as they always are, offensive line talent. And then this one's a little different. A lot of teams are saying they're asking about linebackers who can turn and run. Everybody feels thin on linebackers who can turn and run. I think because the concepts are going to where you have so many linebackers that have to cover in space. Everybody wants someone who's good in pass pro. But the Riley Reif, interestingly, I can tell you what I think factored there for Riley Reif is my money really going to get better if I leave now, knowing that maybe a number of NFL teams are on financial pitch counts. For example, the Jets. It's kind of gotten out there that Joe Douglas, the GM there, has sort of been told, look, you're on a financial pitch count right now. And I think a number of teams are sort of leaning on their general managers saying, hey, this splash signing at the end, unless you're really certain of it, we'd rather you really weren't making a splash signing right before the season kicks off.
Charles, you hearing anything? What are you hearing about Kamara sitting out?
It's possible. It's definitely possible. I know this was an offseason. They wanted a deal done. They wanted a contract extension done.
Hold on. You mean possible as in extendo here, potential whole season? Is that what you mean? It's possible?
I wouldn't say a whole season. I think it's possible if there's a statement made. Let me put it to you this way.
Okay, got you.
So Alvin Kamara, coming into this offseason, they wanted, and this obviously is pre-COVID, all these different things. They thought it was going to be a normal offseason. They're looking at, hey, McCaffrey's going to do a huge deal. It's time to get Alvin Kamara because of how much of the offense runs through him. His camp really wanted to get him a contract extension that was not – we're not talking Derrick Henry. We're talking Zeke Elliott. We're talking Christian McCaffrey. We're talking
big boy.
Yeah, they were when you talk to his camp, it's look at Michael Thomas and what they paid Michael Thomas, then actually sit down and watch the film and figure out how much of the offense actually runs through Alvin Kamara versus how much really runs through Michael Thomas. And they're like, he's worth $17-18 million a year.
Jeez. That's a lot of money.
Well,
Sean Payton picks and chooses who's going to have a good year, though. I mean, they picked and choose. Alvin Kamara 2 years ago was the guy. And if you look at next offseason's free agent running back list, I know why Kamara wants his money. I know why Dalvin Cook wanted his money.
Yeah.
There is 13 premier running backs that are going to be on the market. And that's terrible for the running backs, but great for the teams that potentially have to make a running back move. Earl Thomas, obviously the last one that we haven't hit on yet. Are teams worried about what happened in Seattle and what happened in Baltimore? They are worried. Yeah, that's the case.
Yeah,
I thought
absolutely. So. They're worried. I mean, a big red flag was that the Earl Thomas separation in Baltimore was player motivated. Like the players wanted him gone. And when you have your sort of leadership councils, particularly if it's a higher end player, an elite level player, they'll do a lot to protect a player inside of if there's a problem between either players or players and coaches. The Ravens leadership council did not do that. Like they were like, it's better. Our chemistry is better if he's off the roster.
Jeez.
And remember, here's the thing about Earl Thomas too. And it was interesting when Baltimore signed him, someone brought this up to me. They said, because remember when Earl signed, he was one of the last safeties to sign in that class. And people thought he would be the first safety to sign in that rich safety class. And someone said to me, it was actually a coach. He said, you know what bothers me about him? He was in Seattle all that time. He was an elite cover safety. He was a slam dunk all-pro, and he was never a captain. And they're like, we know that, there's a lot of strong guys.
Nobody went to his birthday party.
No.
Nobody went to his birthday party. That's draft day.
Yeah,
that's
Bo
classic.
Callahan.
Oh, no. That's deeper thinking there. The scouts have to think like that. Charles, we can't thank you enough for joining us, man. I hope we get a chance to talk to you soon, especially as this week continues to cook up. We'll be in touch with you. You can find Charles Robinson at yahoosports.com, .org.
.com. Come on, Pat. Pat, come on, man. You're killing me. And by the way, if you do happen to get WWE Charles Robinson on, please ask him about. We have become friends over the years on Twitter because he and I get confused so often on Twitter, and I get his shit mail and he gets my shit mail. So we have become. So if you get him on, make sure you tell him I said hello.
He fell out of the ring the other night whenever Braun Strowman. He had a tough day. Ladies and gentlemen, Yahoo Sports senior NFL insider Charles Robinson. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Chuck. That was awesome. Hey, motherfucker always knows.
Always got the.
I don't know how he knows. Riley Reef, I assume a lot of teams were calling him to potentially get a little heads up. They restructure a deal for him. And the thought that Riley Reef was like saying his goodbyes yesterday, and then he's talking to his agent. He's like, how do we feel? He's like, there's a lot of teams interested, but none of them can spend money. He's like, let's just see what we got here. Let's go ahead and restructure. Maybe we do take a pay cut. Hey, maybe we do take a pay cut. It's bad time to be a player, especially on the bubble, because you have no idea how much money is going to be available next year for the salary cap. They made a rule that it can't drop a certain amount of percentage, I guess. Over the next 5 years, they're going to wear it. But boy, if that money is going to drop because it's all a percentage on revenue made with the NFL, you got to see how. That's why what happened with the Chiefs is so impressive.
Yeah.
A lot of big news coming out of college football, especially with the Big Ten. Hour 3 kicks off right now. In Hour 3, we'll be joined on almost all days, except for tomorrow, by a man who has the best jawline in sports, ladies and gentlemen, AJ Hall. Oh, is that the Arnold Classic?
Yeah, here in Columbus, Ohio. Unfortunately, they had to cancel it this past year. But, yeah, just representing Arnold, man. He's big in Columbus.
Do you go to that thing? Lift some weights, do the whole thing?
No, they have legit professional bodybuilders there. I've been there, obviously, multiple times. But, I just go to kind of hang out.
Teaching seminars.
What do you do? You just get all the supplements over there? You tell them this is how you get a good jaw workout? You chew that ball thing that's on.
Oh, yeah.
No, they used to give you a ton of free supplements. That's when I used to love going. You just take a bag and they would give you everything. Now they don't give you – they give you barely anything, so I haven't been in a while.
What supplements did you take? NO Explode? You were an NO Explode guy, it looks like. I can see it right by your face. You're an NO Explode guy.
Yeah, I was. I haven't been in 12 years probably. I barely even – it was more of a college thing for me. NO Explode, I had a good run. I had a good 5 or 6 year run where I burn out on it pretty quick. I don't like it anymore.
What was that thing that had meth in it that was like killing you?
I thought it was
ephedrine. You mean like Hydroxycut?
Hydroxycut. Oh. I had such a good relationship with Hydroxycut.
Love it. Really?
So 2 weeks before college football would kick back off, I would go into like a self-quarantine where I would just take Hydroxycut and work out because I normally had to lose like 15, 20 pounds because they're going to have me put on a scale, after summer workouts. We had like 2 weeks off or whatever. So me and Hydroxycut used to prepare for every single college football season. I would drop like 17 pounds or whatever in 2 weeks. And then big reports started coming out and everybody started flooding me with them like, oh yeah, Hydroxycut's going to kill you. I was like, well, what about the pitcher of beer that I chugged to it? Like, not as bad as Hydroxycut. I'm like, God damn, you never know what's in that stuff. And other than that, I was never a big supplement guy, but I guess people take those pre-workouts right to the head now. I see a lot of people on the internet do that. It's insanity, AJ. It's insanity.
Yeah, I guess the pre-workout market is large. There's plenty of different options if you want something for that pre-workout pump that it seems like everybody is out on the lookout for, aren't they?
Well, I'm trying to get a pump in. I didn't wake him up before the show today, and I think it's kind of showing, and I'm not pumped about it, but good tank top for Mossimo, who's currently in fucking jail because his daughters are dumb. All right, let's talk about, speaking of dumb things.
Hey, real quick, the best part about being back there at the WWE stuff with you is that you can pull a band out at any moment, and Pat just go, wake them up, boys. And nobody even looks twice. Like, Pat just all over the place. We still have 5 hours of rehearsal before he's going to go on, or they're going to try to get their spots in the camera spots. And Pat's just waking them up, boys, in case they got the camera ready. And nobody, they're like, yeah, I get you. They're giving you the fist on the way by.
Yeah, some guy gave me a stronger band. He's like, it doesn't seem like that one's working. Let's get you a deep red one. Yep, thank you. Need to wake them up, fellas. Let's go ahead and do it. I don't do a lot of chest, don't do a lot of abs, but if you do the arms and wear tank tops and sleeveless, you look like you're always into fitness. And here I am to say I'm a big fitness guy. We have a massive guest this hour, AJ, and I'll tell you what, the boys get excited for certain people. Yeah. Charles Robinson moves the needle, obviously, in the office, Yahoo Sports, because he's always going to break news. Jason Wright in the first hour, I don't know if you got a chance to listen. Hey, impressive dude, Jason Wright. Former player, now president for the Washington football team. I'm excited about that a player has gotten in there, and I think he's the right guy for the gig, especially after talking to him. I'm a big fan of Jason Wright. But whenever it was said that General Bob Carpenter will be joining us from the Big Ten Army this hour. I mean, the boys went from 6 to midnight, AJ. I mean, this is an exciting day to be a part of McAfee and Hawk.
It is. And why? Who coined the term General Bob Carpenter?
I believe it was probably Ty, if I had to guess, because it was like he's leading an army. He has become the focal point for the army of Big Ten parents, Big Ten players, Big Ten coaches, and it sounds like Big Ten athletic directors who are not happy with the Big Ten postponing the football season. And if you want to know exactly how the people who hate the decision made by Kevin Warren, you go right to General Bob Carpenter's Twitter account, and he is screaming and redlining and doing that. We cannot wait to talk to him, especially with the news today that allegedly they are potentially thinking about bringing football back this fall. Against all odds, there is an 11-3 vote allegedly that happened just last week with the presidents, or 2 weeks ago with the presidents, and the three teams that said they did not want to postpone. Iowa, we knew about. Nebraska, we knew about. And the Ohio State was the third team to jump on the side of not postponing football. And that is why it's so surprising that the Ohio State president had to come out so quickly afterward and say, we won't play football anywhere else. I would assume that's because Kevin Warren was like, hey, we saw you fucking jump on Iowa and Nebraska side. We need you not to do that publicly. Yeah, you got it, bub. But I can't tell you what Ryan Day is going to say, or our fans, but we'll say that we're not going to do it. It feels like football might be coming back. Can't wait to hear what General Bob Carpenter thinks.
Yeah, I definitely hope that there definitely is hope right now for Big Ten football coming back. I don't know what that means for the Pac-12. Like, if the Big Ten finds a way, is the Pac-12 like, oh, yeah, we're coming too, because no one said a word about it.
Just Oregon. Nobody cares.
Hey, have you seen, I think Bob posted some more phone numbers today already.
Yeah, General Bob Carpenter has been rallying.
The people that voted for postponement, he's like, you know who you are. You know who to contact if you want, and he put all the president's numbers up again.
No, I don't know if we're supposed to promote that or not, but it's hard not to be entertained.
He's not saying harass them. It's like what you can reach out to a congressperson or somebody if you have issues with the
your politicians.
Yeah, and General Bob Carpenter's assigning the troops with tasks. Call these presidents. They hate football. They didn't know that the boosters were going to stop giving money, that Austin Peay and Central Arkansas were going to be able to play without a hitch on Saturday night. They didn't know that they were going to be looked at as doofuses as opposed to heroes like they thought. Go ahead and give them a call. That's what General Bob Carpenter's saying. And it does feel, though, SEC, ACC, Big 12, they're going to happen. Central Arkansas, Austin Peay's happening. I assume that other schools that take football and sports very serious are going to happen. And I would assume the Big Ten presidents are still falling on that. We don't know what the long-term effects of this are going to be. We're going to be smarter than every other conference. But in a what have you done for me lately society, it is going to be hard for those Big Ten fans to watch the SEC just dominate and the ACC dominate and everything going on. I can't wait to hear how pissed off Bob Carpenter is.
The thing I don't understand about the long-term effects is just looking at it from like just a football side. Like these people, by the time this stuff comes out, will these people even be able to like reap the benefits of saying I was right?
Will they still be presidents?
That's what I mean.
And will Kevin Warren still be the commissioner 10 years from now? I got a good chance he will not be. Nope. I think there is a good chance, and not his fault.
No.
The guy's first year in the gig, 3 months into it, a worldwide pandemic happens. And now the numbers for the pandemic are being reported a little differently, too. I mean, it is very, but we can't get into it. We cannot get into it. We cannot get into it. But, boy, there's been some fucking stats I've been seeing. And I don't know whose stats I'm allowed to believe and whose stats I'm not allowed to believe. It's like this person you can't take serious, this person you can't take serious, but this person who's not a doctor but talks into a microphone, you can take them serious. And none of it makes sense. But, boy, the whole thought that they were going to be heralded as heroes for making this decision has backfired on the presidents immensely at Big Ten.
But don't you think those three presidents that voted against the postponement, don't you think that they gain a lot of equity from that fan base? Like if you're Ohio State's president and they learn, hey, our president voted that they want to play.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. Like they're okay with that person now.
Well, and that Ohio State president knows that, okay, the Ohio State fans are not going to be pumped. And I wonder if they did it on a Zoom call, like, all in favor say aye. In the Ohio State, Iowa, and Nebraska, people are leaning back from the Zoom. They hear the other 11 go, aye, and they're like, all opposed? It doesn't matter, I guess, but that is, I'm very intrigued to hear how that all went down. And Bobby's joining us, when, at 2:30?
Yeah, about 2:30.
What time's my dentist appointment?
I have no idea.
2:30, dog.
Got you.
Age, you have kids. Come on.
AJ, come on. That's
My
like a
kids
dad joke.
are too old to tell that joke.
No, you tell that joke to them because you're the dad.
They wouldn't get it because they'd be like, Dad, that's the worst dad joke I've ever heard. What are you talking about?
I don't think so. That joke has survived the test of time.
Maybe deliver it the right way, and they'll.
Maybe your delivery's terrible. You ever think about that? You ever think about
my delivery would be terrible because I'd have no passion behind that terrible joke.
What do
It's
you
a good
have
joke,
passion
dude.
behind, AJ?
It is a good joke, dude.
I'm not gonna steal your joke then, out of respect for it.
It's not my joke. I didn't make up that joke. It's a dad joke.
Joke is old as time.
I tell that joke to my dog, my cats. I get meows
I'm
and barks.
I'm not a big joke guy. I'm sorry.
Ronald McNabb.
Oh,
He's
so
the first
serious.
Like the one-liners, like the zinger one-liners. I have a hard time. Yeah, sometimes.
You don't put him?
You're not a big boom guy.
Oh, yeah. I would. You know what? I would define me as that. Yeah, any joke that has a boom, probably you don't need to throw that my way.
You are not the demo. All right, noted. I don't know any other one other than that one, by the way. Did you hear about this new book, The Dynasty, that's coming out?
I've heard a little bit. So the book's not out, but they put out like the juiciest transcripts, I guess, from players.
I think it got released today. I believe the book was released today, and all these other sporting networks were allowed a preview of the book. We were not offered that up. I think it's potentially because I've never read a book in my life, and they probably knew that. But the quotes have been everything that we think was happening behind closed doors about Tom being fed up with being treated like a rookie in his 20th season. And even Giselle got involved, I guess, in a conversation and the decision with Coach Robert Kraft. Robert Kraft had to facilitate meetings between Belichick and Tom and Brady. I mean, the whole thing, the Belichick, the book, I think, is going to do very, very well. But listening to the dysfunction that was potentially happening behind closed doors in the greatest dynasty in the history of professional sports was very interesting. And I would assume people are going to be excited to hear it. And Giselle said that she was tired of Tom being treated like fucking Johnny Foxborough whenever he was the most accomplished quarterback in the history of the NFL. And by the way, you can't blame her for thinking like that. I actually appreciate the nickname, and I respect the hell out of her speaking up and saying that.
I respect her being ride or die for her guy, man. For Tom, I understand that. I mean, I think everyone wants to have a spouse that'll have their back no matter what. Sometimes even like even if it's irrational to support your spouse, sometimes you should do it just to let them know you have their back.
Stephen Hauschka's wife came after me.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Mm-hmm. Kicker for the Bills.
What'd you do?
Well, okay, so he was kicking field goals, and it was either blocked or short or something like that, and the return team was the Jets. They were about to return it, and Hauschka drifted over to the side of the field where the ball was being returned, and one of my friends, Goose, Okay. Henry Anderson. His name's Goose. Who needs to know his actual name? One of my friends, Goose, who they called Baby JJ when he came into the league with the Colts because he was so good. He had a couple knee injuries. He ends up with the Jets. So as Hauschka drifts over to where the return was potentially coming, old Goose, he killed him. Okay, like he side, boom, down. Hauschka gets hurt, leaves the game or whatever. I had Goose on the show the day afterwards.
Judge Pat.
And we had a judgment where he could state his case. I sent him a text immediately after seeing the video. I was like, Goose, this is what I said. He was like, I knew you were going to be pissed, is what he said back to me. I was like, can you come on the show to talk about it? He said, are you just going to yell at me the entire time, or can I state my case? I was like, you can state your case. We will objectively, independently, non-biased, make a ruling, okay? So I listened to him, and he said if he didn't drift to the side of the field where the return's potentially coming, he said I hit him on the side, he landed on his side. I mean, could I have laid off a little bit? But he said if you look at the film, I did lay off of him a little bit. I didn't hit him as hard as I could have, even though it looked bad. And I was like, well, you got to do what you got to do. And I ruled on the side of my friend Goose. I exonerated my friend Goose, right? And Stephen Hauschka's wife was not happy with that. It was a cheap shot, and she said that I justified it and all that stuff, which I guess I kind of did. But
how did she see this? How did she see that you justified it, that you said this is okay?
Well, whenever I do things, normally people see it, AJ. I mean, that's the fucking business we're in.
You know the wife of the kicker, though?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she saw it. She was not happy. And I felt bad, by the way. I would like it to be known that I did feel bad. But for the brand, the kickers and punters brand, if you're going to try to go make a tackle and you get blocked, like I would like us to be treated as just as other football players. So I was kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place there. Yeah. Like, what do you want me to do? Like sell out? Like you shouldn't hit a kicker?
Wouldn't it be offensive to you in the position if people are like, hey man, that's the punter or kicker. You got to lay off them a little bit. You can't be doing that.
Bingo. That is exactly where my mind was, because there's been times where I almost got. I mean, I've almost got by people.
Who cares? It happens to everybody. Like, what's the problem?
Exactly. Now, granted, I've olayed a lot of people, okay, because
well, your head's on the swivel.
Spider senses. I know it's coming. Oh, I'm in that area. There's like a 15-yard area, too, where you can't be. That's where Huber was. Our guy Huber was in there whenever he got his jaw broken. You can either go all the way in or you got to be all the way out. There is like a 15-yard period there in all kick returns where punt, kickoff, field goal block, if you're in there, there's savages flying around, and you got to really watch it. I actually chose to stay out of there. A lot of people think I used to run down the field to tackle people. No. I am staying out, or I'm going all the way in that middle section where he was. So she came after me, and I appreciated her sticking up for her husband like that, but it kind of put me in a bad spot because I was like, I don't know what to do here, lady. I am so sorry. Let's just move forward. And we have moved forward. But Giselle saying
return was happening though, right? If the return was still currently happening, they hadn't blown the whistle yet, and he got blocked, like there shouldn't really be an issue.
I agree, by the way. And I said that. And
Unless it was like a deliberate head-to-head shot, like where you didn't have to blast him in the side of the head.
Well, I mean, there was a way. Goose could have just grabbed him. I think.
But no, you can't say that though, because what if the kicker? What if he olays them, or what if he gets away? Like he'll strike and shed. You want a kicker or a punter to all of a sudden you're like, okay, you think your brother-in-law, we're playing cool. Okay, here we go, Pat. Bam, and you just blast me right in the chin, and I fall down.
I did that big tackle on Trindon Holiday. All people see is the tackle on Trindon Holiday. Before that, number 87, I forget his name. His job was to block me. And he had that moment where I think he thought we're cool because he had his hands on me. I hit him with a spin move. Okay, go make the tackle. So literally most athletic, 6 seconds of my life ever. And you see him on the film literally go like, son of a bitch afterwards, because he knows the next day on film, the only thing they're going to show is, hey, the kicker just hit a spin move on you and then tackled our guy. Do you know that? And then after that, obviously, teams wouldn't give me the brother-in-law block. Right, so you could used to get like benefit of the doubt. Guys would come up and they'd be like, "We good? We good? Yep. Well, yeah, we're good. We're not doing anything." Then whenever he came up, I hit him with that. In film, the next couple of games, people were fucking headhunting. Like they were trying to come and get me, and I was like, "Oh my god, all right, shouldn't have done what I did there. Oh my god." But you're right. Goose was stuck in a bad spot too. New to the team. He gets shook by the kicker. That's a tough spot. And I try to say,
even if he doesn't get shook, even if just he blocks for a little bit, and then the kicker gets off of him, and he finds a way to get the returner down. I mean, that kid may not make it to the Monday morning film session. He might be cut before that even happens.
I believe he did say that too. He was like, I'm new here. If he somehow ends up making the tackle, like I might not have a job come Monday.
But I enjoyed that his wife came, I enjoyed that.
I'm glad she's standing up for him.
Let's talk about Mike McCarthy down there in Dallas. This is your guy. Mike McCarthy, Big Mike, guy who was big-time coach for A.J. Hawk and the Green Bay Packers for a long time. He had the Mike McCarthy project where he was setting up an entire film room and a team meeting room in his basement while he was unemployed. That video hit the internet, did very well. Jerry Jones gets rid of the clapper, a guy who was like a son to him. It was an extended firing. It kind of took a bit of time. He's gone. Who's the next head coach? Boom. Big Mike. Mike McCarthy is the head coach. Mike McCarthy said in the opening press conference that he lied to Jerry Jones about the amount of film he watched on the Dallas Cowboys. They said they had a long night together, and it felt as if Jerry and Mike McCarthy were a budding friendship from day one. I don't know what they did. They said they had a lot of fun. I don't know if it was at the yacht or at Jerry's house. They had a bunch of beers. I don't know what Mike McCarthy likes to do. Probably some Iron City diner. But they are in a relationship now where it feels like Mike McCarthy's making some decisions, and now the media is trying to hammer Jerry Jones about it. They're like, so is Mike McCarthy calling the shots now with the Cowboys? And Jerry's like, now listen, if I didn't agree with him, we wouldn't have done it. I think this is potentially the dawn of a new day here with Jerry Jones, letting the coach do whatever the coach thinks is accurate. Now, whether or not it's right or not to have no jerseys, no numbers, no names, however you feel. But Mike McCarthy having some say, I think is probably pretty good news for the Cowboys fans who've always wondered if Jerry Jones is a little bit too hands-on with the product.
Well, don't you think a guy like Jerry Jones also would – he may not like it at first, but he's going to respect the guy that stands up to him. And he's like, no, it's not going to happen that way. Like that's – and he explains why I'm not going to do it that way. Jerry's probably pissed off at first, like looks at like nobody didn't – people don't talk to me like that. And then all of a sudden he goes to his office. He's like, you know what? I hired the right guy. This is my deal.
How about Mike McCarthy just looking at Jerry Jones going, nah. Not doing that, bub. We're actually taking all the numbers off of the jersey. You want to sell jerseys? That's cool. We're taking the names off them and the numbers off them because we don't want anybody else to know who's making the plays. And also, we don't want our coaches to have any fucking clue who's down there so they can judge. What a wild scene down there. But now, Green Bay might have been different. I don't know. I have always been under, you get it, the understanding that NFL teams are trying to keep everything secret. NFL teams are trying to have an edge. NFL teams don't want to reveal anything to anybody. And the fact that the Dallas Cowboys, I guess it used to be like an all-22 cam for the media whenever they wanted. Then the office building around the field that has people in there. It feels like Mike McCarthy's gone in there and been like, no, like we do not need all of our stuff being given to everybody. That was in Green Bay. Was it like a code of secrecy with everything? Because it felt like that at the Colts, no matter who was the coach. It's like none of this shit gets out anywhere. We need nothing to leak. Cowboys are the opposite, it feels like, or were the opposite.
They were the opposite, yeah, because Jerry, he's done a masterful job of building the brand of the Dallas Cowboys into an international, like everywhere you go in the world, you're going to see Cowboy jerseys. Like that's what they do. But yeah, of course, Green Bay, everything. Every coach I've ever had, I feel like, is extremely paranoid. They know like nothing ever leaves these rooms. What we talk about in here does not leave the room. What happens on the field, like don't tell anybody. Don't tell your mom or dad anything about this. And if we think there's anyone peeking in our practice field over the fence, we're going to go send our security after that. Like that's everything I've ever been a part of is just that. That's how coaches are.
What you see, say, or hear here stays here. That's kind of like the big rules. And I feel like the Cowboys have just been so transparent. It's like, hey, what you see here, we're also going to have our fans see because it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, isn't it? What you hear here, well, we should let them hear it too because, hey, not too shabby. Pretty cool stuff to hear around here. And Jason Garrett, I think we'll look back on this if they do change the culture and the way things. Jason Garrett was handcuffed to have success there. That Darren Woodson thing about his office overlooks the practice field and that he's just one of like 1,000. It's like, whoa, how is that even? Like, how can somebody have a bird's eye view on every single practice that is not a part of the team? Well, hey, that's business, baby. You know how much we can charge for these offices? It's like, that's a very interesting thing. And maybe that's the reason, by the way, that they've been so average with so much talent is because other teams potentially, now just potentially, know exactly what they're going to do in situations. That's something that could potentially be avoided, and I think Mike McCarthy's trying to do that.
I mean, I guess that's an interesting theory. I don't know. You're giving a lot of credit to the rest of the league, I guess. But I think with Jason Garrett, don't you think if you let Jerry get away with stuff like that early on, then you're screwed. You can't come back. And it's like if you're a head coach and you let a couple star players or a couple starters show up late to a team meeting,
can't do it.
If you don't kill that guy right there and fine him and kick him out of the meeting, guess what? Like, you can't ever say anything to that guy again, pretty much. And it's a trickle-down effect on the rest of the roster. But if you're the head coach, Big Mike, just telling him, hey, nah, I'm going to lay the ball down right now. Like, I understand you're the owner. You sign my checks. I love you for it, but you leave this stuff to me. This is football. I got it.
I love that you just call him Big Mike. Like, that is literally just the easiest thing for you to call him is Big Miker.
He's a big, awesome guy.
You think he's got Pittsburgh, like photos of the downtown Pittsburgh in his office down there in Dallas or what?
Oh, I'm sure he probably has pictures of what the bridge, what's the yellow bridge? What's it called?
Clemente Bridge, yeah. And then
There
there's
you go.
Fort Pitt. I mean, there's a lot of bridges. By the way, 100 and some bridges in Pittsburgh. I think it's actually known as the Bridge City. I think it actually
City of Bridges.
City of. I think it is. I think
second to Venice, I believe.
City of Bridgely Love.
Yeah.
I'm sure he does have pictures of different hot spots in Pittsburgh. I'm sure his dad owned a bar he always talked about. I'm sure that there's probably a shot of that with his dad on there.
Have I been there?
Yeah, big family guy.
Down Greenfield. No, probably not.
Is it like a hole in the wall?
Is it still there?
Well, there's a guy who I played with at Duquesne who I believe owns it now. It's now called Huff's, I think.
Humble brag
Oh, no big deal. No big deal. Down there at Huff's. Diner.
Huff's, good spot.
All right, I'm gonna go to the bathroom here. General Bob Carpenter will join us on the other side. Yes. I cannot wait for this. Just so we pub it right. What does General Bob Carpenter do? He's on ESPN. He's a contributor on ESPN. Obviously, you can see him in a lot of shows. He also hosts a radio show in Columbus.
Yep, in Columbus, Ohio, from 6 to 9 a.m. now. He just switched. He was 12 to 3, now he's 6 to 9 with old Schlegel and another.
Schlegs.
2/3 of the Buckeye Legend cereal that we have in the office are on that show. 1/3 is on this show. Ooh. General Bob Carpenter is the voice of the upset from the Big Ten Conference. We can't wait to get his take on will Big Ten football play football like everybody else is playing football this fall, or will they sit on the sidelines because they're more healthy and safe than everybody else? Can't wait to hear from General Bob. This is McAfee and Hawk, Tuesday, September 1st. We'll see you on the other side.
There's a grown man with face paint on. So you're Big Nut.
I am, and you're Little Nut.
Well, I've had a few of those in my life. Hey, I'll tell you what, Big Nut. I hope to find you one day on my wedding night. Big Nut!
Little Nut!
You did a great job, too. The lines are straight. No DUI problem there. You're really doing a great job here, sir. Hey, Big Nut, I love everything you're about, bud.
Because we are going to win the game.
He just spit in my mouth while saying that.
The most likely team to make the college football playoff is the team that is in Columbus.
He said khakis are way too close to that team from up north. If you don't put black pants on right now, you're going to get booed out of Columbus. So I went with the black. Makes me look thin. And whenever I say 2 letters, the place goes crazy. OH! Yeah! Ladies and gentlemen, Eddie George. That offense, though, led by Justin Fields. He has 41 touchdowns accounted for, only 1 turnover. I don't know how he isn't the Heisman favorite right now.
Well, he certainly has a chance to make a stick at that today, certainly next week.
We're supposed to be in Penn State Nittany Lions. And Mike McQueary told me I wasn't Penn State material. Okay, Herbie was your quarterback. He was a senior. You were a freshman. What was he like as a teammate?
Oh, he was great, man. Big shoulder pads. Kurt could run for days back in the day.
We have a guy that can break every single bone in my body. Stipe, how you doing, boss man? They're down 6-1. She wants to flex on the gram. He says, lady, we are getting slaughtered by the Pittsburgh Penguins. No.
Do I do a chair? I feel like I need to do this.
Welcome back to the McAfee and Hawk here. We are 28 minutes after the hour here in hour 3 of Tuesday, September 1st show. First hour, we had Jason Wright, the brand new president of the Washington football team. In the second hour, we had Charles Robinson, who works for Yahoo Sports. He broke some news about Antonio Brown probably going to the Seattle Seahawks if he can maintain no trouble off the field. Then we also got a chance to chat with AJ Hawk here for the first 30 minutes of this third hour. And now we're being joined by a man who is leading an army on the internet, General Bobby Carpenter.
Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate that. And you know what? If I would have known, I would have gone sleeveless today. I apologize for being overdressed.
Well, I mean, AJ's got a long sleeve on. This is just kind of got to let the arms out, and the spray tan that I have is kind of falling off. Bobby, let's talk about you. You're a first-round draft pick to the Cowboys, an Ohio State legend, obviously. But now you have become the voice for upset Big Ten players, Big Ten coaches, Big Ten fans, Big Ten family, Big Ten alumni, and following along on Twitter has been a beautiful thing. Where do you see the Big Ten football season standing? It's been postponed. It's potentially coming back. The president's involved now. The general of the Big Ten Army, Bobby Carpenter, what are your thoughts on the standing of the Big Ten football season?
You know, Pat, I feel a little bit like Tom Cruise in A Few Good Men. I mean, I'm just sitting there talking to Colonel Jessup, a.k.a. Kevin Warren, saying I want to know the truth of what happened, why it happened, how it happened. What did you use as reference material? And so I think with the Nebraska parents filing that lawsuit and through discovery, then we were able to find out the fact that, hey, these were the presidents that voted yes. These were the presidents that voted no. And if you fall under one of the presidents that voted no and you like football, turn up the heat a little bit. And so I think that has begun to happen a little bit. The president has gotten involved. It shouldn't be a political matter. I mean, this is football, for heaven's sakes. But if you look at maybe how politics play into it, the geographic footprint, there's a lot of swing states. You know, I've done a lot of research here over the last hour and a half about the phone call and everything that happened, and because people were doubting if it really did occur, and I have on good source that it did occur, it did happen, and President Trump has basically offered the Big Ten presidents and Kevin Warren everything they need at his disposal to get this done. They have the saliva test, they have as many as they need. You tell me what you want, he said, and I will provide it for you.
Bob, hey, how do people turn up the heat if they want to try to reach out and figure out how to get this thing going again?
You know, it sounds cliche as possible, but, you know, like if you live in one of those states, contact your congressman, contact your senator, and I've posted a number of times, as Pat has said here and alluded to, like, hey, email the presidents, call the presidents. There are 13 of the 14 are all public officials. And so with that, reach out to them and let them know your displeasure.
General Bobby Carpenter here joining us. This man is leading an army and the boys are saluting. Now, you did say you don't want politics to get involved. They should be involved. But then you said call your senator, which is very, very interesting. But they can set the rules, which could potentially open up the schools to play again. I assume that is – now, aside from the presidents, it is – been said that they thought they were going to be looked at as heroes because they're deciding on safety and future health as opposed to just football. And then the backlash has been the complete opposite. Were they making that decision strictly from the individual guidelines of the states that the schools are in? Because Cincinnati's going to play in Ohio, Pitt and Temple are playing in Pennsylvania. I mean, Austin Peay and Central Arkansas were able to play. What were the decisions made for the 11 people that said no football? And why did why was there only 3 that said yes, you think?
Well, I think initially it was only 2, Nebraska and Iowa, and I think some of the political pressure was turned up. And when I said political, Pat, I don't think it should be partisan.
Okay, I got
you. The thing is that when you look at your senators and your representatives, I don't care if they're Republican, I don't care if they're Democrat, but they're elected. They have some accountability. And so the general population at large doesn't elect their presidents at the universities in their state. And so reach out to them because they can usually sway them a little bit based upon the information they have and resources that they can provide. And so that's what I was trying to do, and that's what I was trying to sit there and promote with everybody, is to do that. And you threw out Notre Dame's playing in the state of Indiana, and so that's where it doesn't make any sense. In the state of Ohio, I'm coaching 2 of my kids' Little League teams. High school football played on Friday night. You've got the Bearcats playing, you have the Bengals and Browns playing, but yet you don't have Ohio State playing. And for one of the biggest economic drivers of Columbus and of this state, it is absolutely imperative that they play.
Bob, what about Kevin Warren? Why do you think he jumped out so quickly and made that decision to shut it down when he could have at least prolonged it for a couple of weeks and tried to do something?
Well, and that's what's unbelievable to me is the fact that, they chose to shut it down at that point in time. Why wouldn't you give it more time? Wait and see how it plays out. You have all these students returning to campus. You think it's safe for them. So I don't understand why those presidents wouldn't have waited at all. I think Kevin Warren wanted to be seen kind of as a visionary. He thought he could get the other conferences on board. The Pac-12 was always in his pocket. But the reality is the SEC and the ACC were going to play. And then all of a sudden the Big 12 joined them because they didn't want to be left out. And so then you have the majority of the conferences playing. And I think the Big 10 was standing there, with egg on their face, and now they're trying to double back and figure out how they can save this.
Do you think they're going to be able to double back and save this? Do you think that's really happening? Like, do you think the pressure from the Big Ten Army that you are the general of, and the public pushback, and now the president calling, saying, hey, whatever, do you think that's going to change anything, or do you think they're set in thinking that what the decision they made is going to be viewed as right 10 years down the road?
Well, I think the president was able to offer him an olive branch and try, and also, actually a life preserver as well, and saying if you want to double back, because now they've all been unmasked, because people know how they voted. And so if you're in Michigan and you're in Pennsylvania, you're upset that your president voted no. And so with that, he's going to say, listen, we can provide you all the instant saliva tests you need. I mean, I think the U.S. government purchased all of them that they could from Abbott. I don't think that there was enough left for everybody else. So, hey, I'll provide them to you to help out with the resources. So this is something that is now available that wasn't at that point in time. So you guys don't have to be wrong. You just have more information now and more resources now.
Bob, have we learned any explanation for why there was so much confusion with did they vote, did they not vote, and now we find out it's 11-3? Like, why were they trying to scuttle that?
Well, because I don't think anybody wanted to be viewed as someone who shut down football in the Big Ten. And so when you think about it, especially if you're at Penn State, if you're at Michigan, if you're at Michigan State, if you're at Wisconsin, some of these big branded teams, they wanted to try to pitch it as a consensus. Well, Nebraska blew that up when they said, we'll go play whoever. And so then they couldn't hide behind that anymore. And you heard the Minnesota president say, well, it really wasn't a vote. It was kind of a discussion because they didn't want to be unmasked. Nobody wanted to be accountable for their decisions, even though these people with bonuses are all making over $750 a year as public officials. You have a degree of accountability and responsibility, not only to your students, but to the state. And you're going to sit here and hide and pretend like, oh, we didn't really know what happened because you guys shouldn't find out what voted. It drives people insane.
General Bob Carpenter leading the charge on the internet about upset fans basically picketing. They were picketing the Big Ten offices in Chicago. The lawsuit from Nebraska you talked about earlier, this whole thing, and obviously we want to eliminate from the thought that COVID-19, eliminate real world, and we're talking strictly sports world. It came out that the presidents of the Big Ten schools underestimated the amount of clout of athletics or something like that. Did you hear about that? And how is that even possible if you're running a university that a lot of money from the boosters comes in strictly because of the athletics? Is this just ineptitude, or is this just a little bit of ignorance in the importance of sports in the world?
I'd like to consider myself a pretty self-aware.
Oh, yeah. General Bob? Oh, yeah.
Well, hey, I try not to get in fights that I don't think I could win. I think I'm kind of a good-looking guy, but not the most handsome guy in the world. Like,
smart.
Decent athlete, not a great athlete. Like, don't ever overestimate your own skill set and your own importance. I think some of these presidents thought, hey, nobody will find out about this vote, so we'll never really be accountable for it. Everybody else will join our cause. All the other conferences will shut down. And then because of that, we won't look like the bad guys. When in reality, if you think about it, Pat, you live up in this footprint, look at the biggest stadiums in the country. You've got 4 of the 10 that reside in the Big Ten. You've got Ohio State, you've got Nebraska, you've got Penn State, you've got Michigan. How in the world could you sit there and tell me that you didn't think that people in this area of the country thought football was important? They pack those things out. They pay tons of money. The Big Ten has the best TV deal because the most people watch. That is the most unaware thing I've ever heard in my life. And believe me, if that's the logic they're using, they're either living in an echo chamber that they only want to hear, or I don't know what type of degree they had that allowed them to graduate with a PhD.
Oh, General Bob saying it's a fake degree.
Orders, Sultan.
Hey, Bob, if you could be in the room, at some point you are going to come face to face with Kevin Warren, the commissioner of the Big Ten.
Yes. Oh, yeah, he has heard you. He has heard you.
Oh, yeah. I think you may get a meeting soon with the groundswell of support that you have going. What's your first question you're going to ask the guy?
First question I'm going to ask him, because he didn't have a vote. He's the commissioner. And there was, from what I had kind of heard and gathered, there was the 3 schools, Ohio State, but especially Nebraska and Iowa, they're driving. There was a handful of schools, let's say Rutgers, Maryland, they knew they're not playing for anything anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So they're trying to pull people that way. There's about 3 or 4 of those schools. True. The schools in the middle, how did you pitch it? And did you talk about the potential good side of college football and all the benefits and all the financial implications of it and what it could mean for your players? Or did you just sit there and pitch, the uncertainty and all the risk and everything? And why did you not, when all 14 of your athletic directors unanimously told you they wanted to play in the fall, why did you not recommend that and tell them you wanted to play in the spring? You went full Benedict Arnold on your ADs and did not represent their best interest.
Will you mention the red line that you put out on his statement? That was one of our favorite things that ever hit the internet, was you redlining his statement and pointing out a little bit of hypocrisy in some statements. That thing, I think, is really when your army started to form. I think whenever they saw that General Bob was willing to take time to redline an official statement, I think that's when the army really jumped on board with General Bob.
Well, you can sit here and in 240 characters on Twitter bang out this and that. I'm like, you know what? They put this statement out here, and there are direct contradictions that presidents said, that AD said, that he had said. He's referencing the global pandemic. Dude, how does what's going on in Australia or anywhere else in the world impact what's happening in the Big Ten footprint? And so, you know what? I'm like, this will be easy for everybody to understand. Pull out the red line, get it in Adobe, sit there and bang it out. I mean, I don't know if you know this, Pat. Not only am I a general, but I also teach a couple business classes over at Ohio State.
Ain't no fake degrees either. Those are not fake degrees.
No fake degrees. I got an MBA from here and an undergrad, so I teach a little bit. So might as well put that to good use in the realm of athletics as well as academics.
Jeez, Bob, I didn't know you had a master's over there. I didn't know you were a polished businessman. The acumen. I mean, I saw the red line. I should have known that there was some deep history behind that thing. Ty, you got something for General Bob? By the way, this is one of your strongest soldiers here, General Bob, Iowa grad here. He was accepted to Harvard, chose Iowa because he likes to party. How do you feel, Ty?
Go Hawks. Bob, moving forward at this point, I mean, I know a new tweet just came out today that said, there's a good chance the Big Ten is going to come back now in the fall. Have you heard anything like that, or is that mostly bullshit at this point?
No, I think that there's a good chance. I mean, the people that I talked with, it's squarely in the president's...
Who are your sources, General?
No, I'm not going to unmask some of these people.
I'll
tell you this, they're very reliable people that know about this stuff, and they were the ones that told me, there's a good shot now. I think there might even be some of these universities starting to practice now because they think there's that potential for this to come down this quickly. Because in reality, give the guys 3 weeks of a little bit of a training camp and throw them back out there. They were already training all summer. They were already safe. The numbers were good. Let's go see if we can do this thing. And speaking of which, the University of Iowa, I've had people reach out to me, and this isn't just an Ohio State thing. There was a guy that reached out to me that was an Iowa grad saying, thank you for everything you're doing on this.
That's right. General
Bob!
Yeah. Well, it's going to gut the athletic department if it doesn't happen. That's what other people do not realize. If there's no football, there's not going to be any men's soccer. You're cutting synchronized swimming. You are going to decimate some of these athletic departments, and nobody wants to see that happen.
Bob, what about basketball? Is basketball in jeopardy? Are they going to try to bubble these guys for college? What's going to happen?
Well, here's the irony with basketball, is the way football's set up, the people that are making money in football is the universities. And so it's in their best interest to play. Now, the NCAA, they canceled that tournament last year. That is the biggest driver of revenue for the NCAA institution, which also resides over there in Indianapolis. And so if they go 2 years without that, there is real fear about the solvency of the NCAA and would they have to file bankruptcy. And all those guys in their ivory towers, Mark Emmert, they're making $1 million plus a year. They're going to be out of a job because that's their biggest revenue driver if you take that away. So I think the hypocrisy is really beginning to show itself, the lengths of which they're willing to go to try to get some of these things done once the finances get involved.
General, the thought of the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12 happening and the Big 10 not happening, Now, let's say that the Big Ten somehow doesn't play this fall, because you're basically alluding to the fact that it feels like they're going to play. So let's assume the opposite. Let's say they don't fall. Do you think that Austin Peay, Central Arkansas, every team in the SEC, every team in the ACC, every team in the Big 12, and the American Athletic Conference will have a recruiting head start over these Big Ten teams, because they could just say, hey, our conference, we care about football here. Not like the Big Ten. Big Ten doesn't care about football here. We care about football. I think there's real rippling effects in that avenue as well, not just financially, but I think as the traditional powerhouse school, I think that potentially gets changed in the narrative if Big Ten doesn't happen. Now, granted, we want everybody to be safe, but strictly from a football world, I feel like that's something that could truly happen.
Hey, look at the big brain on Brad right there. I mean, that's some intelligent thought right there, Patrick. Like, if you think about it, it may not hurt Ohio State with some of all their guys. They're still going to get the top-end dudes. But everybody always says, put your money where your mouth is. Don't talk about it, be about it. Oh. And so it's easy to sit there and tell me you care and your conference loves football and you love football and you're willing to do everything and we want to get you here. But if you start talking about getting recruited, about going potentially to Indiana or Cincinnati, and Cincinnati can sit there and tell you, you know what? We voted to play football. We went on. Indiana, not only did they not have a season, but their president voted no when their governor had high school football going on. So tell me how much they really care about football over there. And those are real. That is real conversations that are going to be having. It's not negative recruiting. It's just a statement of fact.
It is, Bob. Last thing from me. You seem to be optimistic that the Big Ten might find a way to come back and play this fall. What does it look like? When does it start? When does it end? Are they still able to do the playoffs? Like, what happens?
Well, if they're not doing the playoffs, then it's essentially just, and to quote Paul Feinbaum, who I don't always agree with a ton of, but he said it's the XFL. And that's the truth. Like, if you're not playing for a national championship, then you're just playing. It's just glorified spring ball. So they've got to get it done by mid-December. I think you can have a 6, 7, 8 game season. They can start that thing somewhere in mid-October. Early October, you give the guys a couple weeks to ramp up. You play 7 or 8 games, 6, 7 games, and then you play a conference championship. I mean, that's really all you need, because the only 2 teams that are really in this, and maybe you could throw Michigan in there too, but it's Ohio State, Penn State, potentially Wisconsin. There's like 3 or 4 teams that will have a shot to play for a national title, and those are the data points that really count. Nobody cares if Ohio State or Penn State or whoever beats Illinois or Rutgers 55-7. They care how they play against the elite teams. So if you give me 4 really good games out of 6 or 7, I think they'll be fine.
Well, Bob, I can't thank you enough for joining us. The hair looks incredible. How's the 6 a.m. schedule going? Is that a little bit early for you? Is that a little bit of a kick in the sack?
AJ knows this. I mean, we've been waking up and working out together for years. So the early wake up wasn't a big deal. But I do like to get the little pump going beforehand. Tough to get a workout in before 5. I usually just run a couple miles, and then I try to get a little lift after. So that's tough, Pat, because believe me, I wanted to rock the cutoff. I just didn't know if it was going to be appropriate or if it would scare anybody.
Okay, so you guys are just like this should just say Buckeye Meathead Heroes.
What?
Is it this Buckeye Heroes? Yeah, you're right there on your thing as well. Hold on, right there.
There we go.
So you 3 were just meatheads, huh? That just love the gym. These 3 guys right here just love the gym. Let's get as much iron as we fucking can in our body.
Hey, man, you know what it was about. I mean, look at AJ. You don't get to be that buff and get a wife as good looking as his. If you're not able to lift the weights, Patrick. Like, you gotta be self-aware and know what you got. And so if your only avenue is like getting big and strong, and that you think that's going to be the thing that will appeal to the opposite sex the most, you got to go all in, man.
That's right.
And that's about the only thing.
That's general. That's general.
That's my general.
Ladies and gentlemen, all Big Ten stud Buckeye hero, general of the Big Ten upset fan army, ladies and gentlemen, Bobby Carter. Thank you, Bob.
Hey, thanks, Pat. And I'd make a great ring guy for you if you ever need me. Okay? I mean, I got some a little bit left right
Oh! A lot of people are saying AJ just sat back and watched me get punked and didn't do anything.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what people are saying. Ty's still saluting his general, by the way.
Escorted out.
That is just the way it goes. Thank you, Bob.
Hey, thanks, Pat. Thanks, AJ. You guys have a great day.
What a guy. Hey, what a guy, General Bob Carpenter.
Wow, awesome.
Hey, I did not know he had a master's in business. General Bob Carpenter.
Professor
He's
Bob
a
Carpenter.
professor now at this point. He's a general leader of an army. AJ, what an interesting linebacker room that had to be with you, him, and Schlegs.
Yeah, it was, and I still see him and Schlegs a lot too. So, yeah, Bob's a smart dude. I mean, as you heard, he does his research, so he He definitely had answers for any questions we had.
The red line of that fucking statement is the best.
Popped it up on Adobe, put it out there. It's awesome.
By the way, I would assume that he's potentially going to take a victory lap if Big Ten football comes back.
Oh, yeah. Rightfully so.
I assume he's
You
going
would
to
assume? Yeah, I think so. He deserves it.
You might get a Medal of Honor.
Hey, he has really gone ham. I mean, all in on it. That's been his. I assume that's his morning show every day. Is just talking about how Kevin Warren has completely fucked this up. I assume that's his entire 3 hours every day, because if the Sports Illustrated report is true at all, which they said that the Big Ten presidents thought immediately after their decision, the ACC was going to cancel the next day, and then it would just be like kind of like a domino effect.
Did they not talk to anybody else? Did they not talk? Like, they all have friends, I'm sure, in the ACC and like everywhere. Did they not communicate before? Like, hey, I think we're going to shut it down. Like, you're going to follow, right?
Well, I think that was a conversation that was had, and that's why they believe that. But then Notre Dame allegedly calls the ACC and says, hey, let's make something happen because we want to play. And then they're like, oh, maybe some future stuff for Notre Dame being in the ACC, maybe in the future. And that kind of stopped their vote for canceling anything. And now the ACC, so then the Big Ten and the Pac-12 are kind of just left like kind of, holding their pud there for a little bit. And now we're at a situation where everybody else is playing. The American Athletic Conference is playing. These small schools are playing. And now the Big Ten, because they wanted to be the first people to vote on whether or not to happen, they're just sitting there staring from the outside in. And I would assume that he talked about it. Four of the top 10 stadiums or four of the top 5 stadiums or biggest stadiums are in the Big Ten or whatever.
Big Ten, yeah.
That whenever you have that amount of people probably pissed off, and by the way, in the states that they're in, a lot of these schools, there's a lot of people who have not really believed in the quarantine for a long time. Yeah. And I'm saying that because we live in one currently here in Indiana, and I think that is a general consensus shared here. You got some people probably furious with that. And Kevin Warren, I mean, I don't know how often you can be told to go fuck yourself, but at some point you're going to have to listen, I guess. And even if the president's calling now, it's like, okay, now everybody knows that the whole world is calling us right now. I would assume they're going to have to give in just a little bit. And in general, Bob saying that now they have excuses too, like they have more resources and more information for them to turn around their answer. That's huge too, because they don't want to look like they're people who make decisions and come back off it because then they question your leadership. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this, and it's Big Ten football, baby. That's all that it is, Big Ten football.
Well, yeah, don't you think they're worried that if they go back on their word and they'll say, okay, we're going to appease all of these people that are so upset. We found a way. We're going to make it work. We're going to play a 7-8 game regular season. Don't you think they instantly, although people are happy football's back,
credibility.
There's no credibility for any of those people anymore, I guess, in the eyes of most fans.
Well, and by the way, if every other conference that is similar to yours is accomplishing something and yours isn't, I think the credibility is automatically questioned to begin with, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, how come, I mean, Austin Peay and Central Arkansas can figure out how to do this, but Penn State, Ohio State, Northwestern, some of the smartest people on it, they can't figure it out. I mean, that is, I think, the natural reaction. And then you have to hold that against, I guess, the person making that decision forever, like literally forever, as they have that title. Anything they say from this point forward, people are going to be like, oh, you're the one that didn't want football, though. I remember that. You're the one that said, like, everybody else can do it, including high school and middle school and little leagues, but we can't do it. I remember when you said that. Yeah, okay, cool. Go ahead and take a hike, pal.
Well, and to your point, too, about, like, the boosters, like, I used to work at that, like, charitable giving or whatever for Iowa. A lot of times, like, when people would call in, if you're asking for money for anything other than the athletic program, people would fucking hang up right away. It's like they don't want anything to do with it. Or if they were going to donate, it'd be like, yeah, we'll give some money to the general scholarship fund, but that's as a caveat. Like, I want to give $100,000 to the football team.
They said they didn't expect the clout of athletics. What a line. I love it. I love that they're just kind of floating through the world like, you know why people love Ohio State? Or not Ohio State. I guess that president did not do that. But Michigan State, but you know why they love us, man? Because our academics are so good.
Our colors are cool.
Like the Spartans cool looking, you know, like the thought that the actual sports themselves didn't matter. That makes a lot of sense, by the way. And it's just.
Well, now, if you're Kevin Warren now, and you have the president tweeting and saying that, hey, we will get all the resources.
Bend over backwards for you, basically.
Wow. So if he is going to, like, let's say the president does make all these saliva tests available for the Big Ten, do they have to buy them? Who pays for them? Are they a gift from the government? How's it work?
Hey, I don't. Because now if the government's giving gifts to private institutions, I mean, then that's an entire conversation in and of itself. Who knows? Who knows? Who?
Pay for them, but they're just available for them to buy.
Executive order.
And by the way, get one of your boosters that decided to opt out to pay for these, and they'll be right back in the game. They want football. Here we go. Here's how we do it. What's up, Diggs?
Breaking news from the NFL.
Here we go.
You could scratch off one of those free agent running backs for next year. The Bengals are giving Joe Mixon a 4-year deal worth $48 million.
Okay, Joe Mixon comes out of college with massive red flags, obviously, for what happened late night in a restaurant. I don't know if it was a Chipotle, where he punched the shit out of a lady. I mean, it was on tape, the whole thing. They tried to basically say he's young, he's dumb. He admitted it. He owned up to it. The Cincinnati Bengals draft him. There's really no fanfare, but he has stacked a pretty solid couple years here in the NFL, showing a lot of great talent. Now with Joe Burrow, young quarterback, Joe Mixon locked in for 4 more years. Are they doing things right over there in Cincinnati? I think they should have spent maybe some of that money and built an indoor practice facility, but Joe Mixon is now no longer a part of the 13-deep, incredible running back free agency class of next year that Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, James Conner, and others seem to be about to fall on.
We don't know the specifics of the deal right now, but do you think that's a deal that Kamara would be happy with if the Saints offered the same thing?
They wanted Charles Robinson told us that he wanted $18 million a year because he said if you looked at the film, he was a much more focal point of the Saints offense in the last couple of years than Michael Thomas. After seeing what Michael Thomas made, Charles Robinson seems like he has a pretty good connect that was telling him that information. But Alvin Kamara has been out now, 4 days? And if that thing doesn't get settled soon, that's going to be a very interesting scene. But the next year's free agency for running backs is so deep. I can't believe the Bengals signed Mixon. By the way, it feels like it is a very team-friendly market in the running back thing. But $48 million for a guy, I guess they feel like they can build their entire offense around.
Yeah, the Derrick Henry was 4 years, $50 million. So it's probably 2 years, $25 million. Garrett. It's probably the same deal as Derrick
all that
Henry,
matters on that is how much money is guaranteed, and that's what how the leagues protect themselves. It's like a 2-year deal with we can make a choice after 2 years if we want to keep you and pay you the rest of it, or just send you on your way and not take too much of a hit.
Nobody has a clue how much money they're going to be allowed to spend next year either. So nobody, like Charles Robinson said, that a lot of GMs are potentially being tapped on the shoulder by the owners, telling them, "Hey, go ahead and tighten that thing up, tighten the purse up on how much money you spend, because we don't know how much money we're going to have next year." And the Chiefs are completely opposite of that. The Chiefs have locked in Andy Reid, locked in Veach, locked in Patty Mahomes, locked in Travis Kelce, bring back Sammy Watkins, draft Clyde. Somehow that team has been able to lock people up for a long term in a fashion that I don't think anybody's been able to do before in the history of the NFL, to be honest with you. I don't know if you've been able to keep that many superstars in one building for as long as they've been able to do it. The Rams tried it a couple of years ago. They had a good run, then everything just kind of imploded. Now the Chiefs lock down Andy Reid and Veach for a lot longer. I mean, there's a lot of deals popping off right now, and if Charles Robinson is accurate, the next week is about to be chaos, I guess. He said chaos because nobody knows anybody else on any other team who's potentially going to get cut, who's potentially going to do this, because the preseason games is how they find that out. Yeah, I guess it's going to be chaos for the next week with deals and cuts and trades and everything like that.
Yeah, hey, so when you know how Jerry decided for the guys to practice in just T-shirts, they no numbers, you can't identify them. Is there a rule now? Do you have to share all your practice footage, or do you have to share some of your practice footage because they don't have those preseason games to evaluate guys that they want to sign to the practice squad or maybe even active?
If you do have to share your practice film and they decided to take numbers off all the players, ultimate fuck you move of all time. Like, that is such a good workaround for the rules that they had to put in place. That is hilarious. I don't think they're mandatory sharing practice film though. I don't think. I think
no way they would, but how they got to be sharing info somehow at least to try to pick up try to build your practice squad. Or you better bring in the right guys because you're gonna have to keep a lot of them around.
Charles Robinson said that the GMs, he just got off a Zoom call with a GM. He was late for our show, YahooSports.com writer Charles Robinson. He was late for our call because he was on a Zoom with a GM, and he said it feels as if GMs are trying to ask media members for information on players that are potentially going to get cut, potential who's been doing well. He said it feels like there's a lot different chain of communication this year because nobody knows anything about anybody else from outside their building.
Yeah, it makes sense, and we know these insiders are dialed in. Like, they have the number of every coach, every GM, every scout. Like, they know what they're doing, so it makes sense. Why not? You utilize everything you can. You don't have practice. You don't have the preseason games to evaluate your talent, which is a lot of times they're just hanging around to those final cuts, and the guy's got you get 24 hours before he can be claimed, or you bring him back to your practice squad if another team doesn't bring him to yours. How do you do that now?
Speaking of, an hour and 2 minutes left for Leonard Fournette to get claimed on waivers because he was cut by the Jacksonville Jaguars. If you pick him up on waivers, you got to pick up his $4 million contract. I would assume a lot of teams think they're going to be able to get him for cheaper. Doug Marrone came out and said that at the last minute we were trying to trade, couldn't get a fifth, a sixth, or anything. Kind of took a shot at him on the way out. Odds are out now for where Leonard Fournette will land. Bears plus 265, Patriots plus 285, Buccaneers plus 350. I guess the Bears make sense. Patriots don't really make sense to me. Buccaneers don't really make sense to me. I don't know enough about Washington, but it feels like the Bears are a potential home. I don't know if they're going to pick up that $4 million salary, though.
Well, yeah, if he hasn't been claimed right now, I mean, maybe if you're really worried someone was going to claim him and you really want him, you go claim him to get that $4 million. But yeah, you can bring him in, I'm sure, for a 1-year prove-it deal, and he probably is highly motivated for that too. Like, all right, yeah, I understand the situation I'm in. I'm going to go have a monster year and then hopefully sign a long-term extension with somebody.
Now, you said this yesterday, but if Leonard Fournette was to go back to Louisiana with the Saints, with Alvin Kamara holding out, that would be insane. I mean, that would be absolutely insane. It'd be, not his fault because he's just taking a job, but that would really set Alvin Kamara up to be in a bad spot. I mean, that would be in a bad spot. But hey, that's the NFL. That's business, baby. AJ, what was your favorite part of the show today?
I thought it was great to get Bob on finally. I thought it was good to pick his brain. I've been around him for years and years, so I know. I never know what to expect with Bob, but I thought he was great.
General Bob Carpenter, I think, was my favorite as well.
Oh, yeah.
Lord of the Vortex.
The boys saluting him. We had a great day. Jason Wright was incredible. If you missed that interview, please go back and find it on the YouTube, or it'll be on the podcast that'll be dropping here in the next day or so. Charles Robinson was cool. We had a great conversation. General Bob Carpenter and AJ Hawk. I mean, this is a hell of a Tuesday, September 1st, AJ. Not a bad Tuesday.
Why do you have to rail on Charles so hard for the website that he writes for?
Well, Yahoo Sports came after Indianapolis. Yep. Whenever Indianapolis was the home of the NBA All-Star Game, one of their writers came out and said, ain't nobody want to go to Indiana or something like that. They need to – he's trying to sort of petition, I guess, to cancel the All-Star Game in Indianapolis. He worked for Yahoo Sports. So, obviously, you can't fucking do that, with me around. Can't do it. So I had to answer the guy. I mean, he felt the way he felt. I let him know how I felt. And then now I feel a certain way about Yahoo Sports because of it. You know what I mean? Like I feel
jaded.
Feel a certain way about it.
Makes sense. Yeah, I know you thrive on holding grudges, so I understand.
Yeah, and to be honest, I didn't even fucking know the website existed. So, do you know what I mean? Like that is something.
I think it was just people that had just for email. If you had a Yahoo mail or whatever.
No, I've never encountered somebody that had a Yahoo email account in probably 15 years. So I did not know. I actually did not know until the guy buried Indianapolis as the host. I was like, okay, didn't even know this was still a company. And then all of a sudden, one of our best recurring guests, Charles Robinson, is from that same company. So every time I intro him, I assume a lot of people feel the way I do. Didn't even know it was a company. So I have to remind them, like, hey, Yahoo Sports, still a website, and Charles Robinson, still very, very good at what he does. I just feel obligated to do so. But just a few months ago, I didn't even know it fucking existed. Didn't even know it existed.
Yeah. Would you rather have someone have a Yahoo email or an AOL?
Well, neither. I mean, you're cutting both of those people out of your life.
I'm not joking. I've been a bit surprised when I've had some very high-profile people send me their email. Like if I'm trying to communicate with them, like, oh yeah, what's your email? And it ends at AOL.com.
Well, how about Hotmail? There's people that have Hotmail. You got to get them out of your life too. Those people need to get out of your life as well. But
I get it though. Like, what if it's your email and you've had it since high school or something? You don't want to completely switch your email, do you?
Get with the times.
I mean, there's a lot better platforms probably that help out in the way you manage your emails and that type of stuff. I don't know. I guess I respect it. Just didn't know it existed. That's all. And I'm just trying to be fair. Stern, but fair. And Charles Robinson, every time he comes on, he's incredible. I don't know. Now, listen, Yahoo's probably paying him pretty well. He's a senior NFL insider. But I don't know how he hasn't been. He knows. Whenever he comes on, he knows everything.
Clowney's right-hand man.
He knows everything about everybody. It makes no sense to me why he's. I mean,
where does he go? There's insiders. Every network you look at, they have multiple insiders.
Well, you're right. He's bringing Yahoo's. He is Yahoo Sports. Charles Robinson is Yahoo Sports. He's given the. Stay alive, ha, 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 stay alive. That's how you do CPR, AJ. You just saved a life. This is a show. We'll see you tomorrow. AJ will not be here because he's on with his brother-in-law.
Jesus!
All right, that's the show. Thank you, AJ. That's the show.
The greatest sports talk show on the internet from 1 to 2 Eastern Standard Time. So come on down for a mental vacation with the boys on YouTube Live. It's McAfee and Hawk. It's McAfee and Hawk Sports Talk. AJ used to tackle quarterbacks, and he's a Rust Belt kind of guy. That's the punter of the decade for the 2010s, kicking Pierce missiles to the sky. It's McAfee and Hawk. It's McAfee and Hawk Sports Talk. It's McAfee and Hawk Sports Talk.